All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. It is Matt Murphy on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just about 7 minutes after the hour. Glad you've decided to join us today. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of that. It's Monday, November. All right, I've already screwed it up. I tried for a perfect show, and I've already screwed it up.
You shanked it.
I did. Well, no, that's Dan Mandis. I don't shank things. I let Dan do all the shanking. I just screw things up. It is Monday, December 9, 2024. There you go. It's episode 709 of this radio show that I've been doing. And it's also launched for Trump Day 282. You can find us on a variety of platforms. I'll get to those in just a moment. That's the voice of Ken Weaver. He's back there in News Closet B, gathering headlines as we speak, despite the fact that he just completed some. He gets them, and he breaks them, and then he gets some more, and he breaks those. And we appreciate him. Hello, Ken Weaver.
Hi, hello there, Brother Murphy. Good to see you, buddy. Congratulations to them dogs.
Yeah, the Georgia Bulldogs successfully taking care of business in the SEC championship. That's good stuff. Seemed to find ourselves apparently our backup quarterback's pretty good. So I don't know. We'll find out.
That kid's good.
You know,
he made one errant throw.
And I think he was trying to throw it out of bounds. I just don't think he. I just don't think
he didn't go far enough.
I just don't think he put air enough under it. I think he was not trying to throw it in the field of play, but eventually he did. Although I will say one thing about that, and then we're getting into the news.
Okay, all right.
One thing about all of that.
Okay.
You see those. You watching the game, Ken?
Oh yes.
You see those. You see those Bulldogs in red gather around that young man Gunnar Stockton, and they they seem to have the word that I kept hearing was juice. They seem to have some juice behind them.
Yes.
You know what that told me?
What's that?
Gunnar Stockton did not arrive at the stadium in a Lamborghini. That's what told me. I mean, it's just hard. Well, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what. That strong safety who hit him out of bounds for Texas, that kid probably has ice on that shoulder right now.
Ooh, Lord. Well, it was a good game. It was a good weekend of football, unless you watched the Tennessee Titans at the stadium like I did yesterday.
Goodness.
Let me tell you, if I was not around a bunch of great people enjoying good times at Nissan Stadium, I would have left at halftime. I mean, I've only been in Nashville 3+ years, a little over 3 years. And I've been to my fair share, not as many as some, but I've probably been to, 7, 8 Titans games. Mm-hmm. And that was sad. The second half of that game, watching the fans just file out of the stadium. It was bad. By the end, there was probably maybe 15,000 people there. Yeah. Maybe. So, I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that gets ownership thinking about the future, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Will Levis might want to think about that. The line of the day was delivered that he better watch out. If he keeps playing like that, he's going to lose that mayonnaise contract. So that's the weekend. Jeff Malinoff, in the absence of Chris Webber, is controlling the experience. We lovingly refer to Jeff as KGB because we're pretty convinced he's a Russian spy, one way or the other. Malinoff, hope you're doing well. I think he's busy doing something right now. He's not even listening.
I'm here. I heard you. I'm not Russian spy. Yeah, all that. And also the Tennessee Titans making football the worst thing ever for a good hour was not fun.
No. It's all good, though. It's all good. We've got more important, dramatic events to discuss. As we've had a heck of a breaking news day, I'll tell you.
I'm telling you, dude.
A couple of news items breaking as the day has gone on. First, out of New York City, the verdict in the Daniel Penny case. We're going to talk more in depth about that at 3:35 with a legal man named Jay, but not our man Jay St. Clair. Jay Town will join us, who is a former U.S. attorney for the Northern District of the state of Alabama, named so by former President Donald J. Trump. He will give us a breakdown on what he thinks went down in the Daniel Penny trial. A lot of prognosticators believed that if they were going to acquit on all charges, they would have just acquit on all charges, and they would not have had to dismiss the manslaughter charge in that case. But dismiss it they did last week. The expectation was, okay, now we're going to have a lot of deliberation on whether it's criminally negligent homicide. Nope. They went in, they said, no, let's get the hell out of here. He didn't do anything wrong. Now you got a lot of talk about vigilantism, and you got a lot of leadership in the so-called Black Lives Matter movement claiming that they're going to take to the street. We're going to break all of that down as the show unfolds today. Obviously, Syria has been embroiled in a civil war for many, many, many years. Although it's been a little low-key and bubbling under the surface, it erupted like a volcano over the weekend to the point that Assad is out of the country. Assad has been dispatched as the leader of that country. And already hawkish Republicans and liberals are demanding that Donald Trump go do something about it. We're going to break that down as well as the 4 hours progresses throughout the course of the afternoon on the drive. Donald Trump will be at the Army-Navy game next week, and he's taking someone special with him. I'll tell you what that is all about. There's a person of interest that has been arrested, and now they're not even saying a person of interest anymore, in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Let's start here. I don't go to McDonald's a lot. I don't. You ever go to McDonald's? We've all been, right? We've all been inside of a McDonald's. We've all been in the McDonald's drive-thru. You're in a McDonald's, and there's a few people in front of you, and you're just standing there, not doing much. Let's pretend together that this is before the days of cell phone technology where everybody's just got their face buried in their cell phone, and you don't have a lot to do. You're just kind of twiddling your thumbs, waiting for your turn to order your quarter pounder with cheese or your Filet-O-Fish. Strongly recommended by me, by the way, Filet-O-Fish, extra tartar, thanks. And you look over there on the wall, and there it is, Employee of the Month. And there's somebody there. Let's say their name is, I don't know, Jeffrey Malinoff. Jeffrey Malinoff, Employee of the Month for this location at the old McDonald's. And maybe, just maybe, you wonder to yourself, well, I wonder what they did to get Employee of the Month. I mean, did they stay late and clean out the Fry Daddy machine? Did they figure out what was wrong with the ice cream machine? Maybe they covered a couple of extra shifts because, Susie Lou, her baby got sick and she couldn't get in here on third, and young Jeff covered the third shift. I wonder what that person did to become McDonald's Employee of the Month. Well, let me assure you of something. Nobody's going to have to ask in Altoona, Pennsylvania, what that person did to become Employee of the Month, because Employee of the Month has been settled in the Altoona location. I don't know if you know this or not. I mean, that's insane. This guy, Luigi Nicholas Mangione, a name out of Central Casting for some bad Hallmark movie. Luigi Mangione is like some sort of Italian mobster name with slick back hair or whatever, or he's the city slicker that came to the small town where they're selling Christmas trees on the Christmas tree farm, and he wants to bust up the Christmas tree farm and make it into condos. You can supply your own narrative, but it seems like a fake name. Luigi decides to sashay himself on into the Mickey D's this morning, get himself an Egg McMuffin or whatnot, and he gets noticed by one of the employees. And so, according to reports, an employee spotted him and decided, I might want to call the police because this guy looks a lot like the guy that they're showing all over the television with regard to this murder that happened in New York City. And so it was. Now, early on, the reports were that he was ID'd at a McDonald's and the ID looked fake, which that seemed weird to everybody. It's like, who shows their ID at a McDonald's? I'm not buying a beer at a McDonald's. I'm not getting ID'd for that purpose. One way or the other, it turns out that it was an eyewitness, an employee that decided he looked close enough to the guy that they saw on our television screens that we better call this up. They called it up. He matched the suspect on the wanted poster. Police responded to the location for reports of a person matching the description of the man wanted for questioning in Brian Thompson's murder, CEO, of course, of United Healthcare. And Altoona police said that they initially took him into custody on unrelated charges, but then eventually they started matching up some of these identifiers. Apparently, he still had a weapon. They believe it perhaps is the weapon used in the murder. He still had a backpack with a number of items in it. It appears at this point, 3:16 in the afternoon on this December 9th, that he ditched something in Central Park with Monopoly money in it. And that led them to search Central Park, thinking that he had ditched the gun in Central Park as well. Now the theory, and it's early on. I mean, he might have had 2 weapons. No one knows. But the theory is that was just to get the police off his trail and to get them bogged down into searching Central Park for the weapon while he got away. Jason writes in, and I thought about that too, Jason, that some people will identify you or attempt to identify you based on credit card information. If you were attempting to use a credit card at a location, I mean, that would have been silly in and of itself if he tried to use a credit card when he knows that he's wanted for murder. But it turns out that that wasn't the case, that it was identified by a witness. They called in police. They started asking about identification. He whipped out a fake ID on the police, and then it turned out that he had at least 4 fake IDs on him, as well as Monopoly money, and here we go now, a manifesto. I believe people who have manifestos either want to get caught or killed. Almost universally, they either want to get caught or killed. Now, Ted Kaczynski is a little bit of an outlier in as much as he was trying to get his manifesto published without getting caught or killed. He's the Unabomber, of course. But there are some connective tissues, at least in our early understanding of who this dude Luigi is and what he's all about. There's some connective tissue between Luigi and the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was anti-capitalist. Ted Kaczynski was anti-modernization. He believed that the modernization of society was leading to the ruination of the planet. I've not formulated all my thoughts on this, and I'm not suggesting there's a direct one-to-one parallel, but my first thought when I started reading a little more deeply into Luigi Mangioni's background, this guy is well-educated as Kaczynski was. He obviously has directed his ire at a certain business model that he believes is the tip of the spear when it comes to corporatization and capitalization and free markets, all of which he apparently hates. And he decided that it was worth killing someone in the process, and obviously Ted Kaczynski decided the same. Methods clearly different. So Luigi Mangioni was arrested after he was spotted in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and I think we know who the employee of the month is going to be in that McDonald's. So there you go. And it's not you, young Malinoff. It's whomever. And this person will get, I mean, obviously this person will get their, what they ought to get is the reward. I think there was like a $65,000 reward for this guy, and if that's the case, they need to get it. High-level law enforcement sources are telling multiple media outlets, including Fox News, that he had a ghost gun similar to the suspected murder weapon, a suppressor, a fake ID, at least one, as many as 4 when taken into custody. The Associated Press also reported he had writings critical of the healthcare industry that were referred to as a quote-unquote manifesto. We know a lot about manifestos here in Nashville. I would expect that we will see a lot more of this manifesto a lot more quickly than we did in the aftermath of the Covenant School shooting here in Nashville, Tennessee, and beyond. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that as well. Mangioni graduated from an elite school called the Gilman School, a private high school in Baltimore, Maryland, at the top of his class. He was valedictorian. He delivered a commencement address, as a matter of fact. Former classmate, they always find the former classmates. You always got to get commentary. He was such a quiet boy. He was so quiet. He seemed like he was a smart kid. He was always doing the right thing. It seemed like news came as a shock. He wasn't particularly. I love these initial comments. He wasn't particularly outgoing or introverted. He was a nice kid. He was such a nice boy. Always had a smile on his face. Never really got the vibes of him being socially awkward. That's why I'm really surprised. I graduated in 2015. He graduated in 2016. So he's in his mid-20s. Mangioni went on to graduate from the University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor and master's degree in engineering. He was a part of the Honor Society for Electrical and Computer Engineering. Mangioni active on social media. He had accounts on X, Facebook, Instagram. Posts discussed a range of interest, including artificial intelligence and social commentary. He had a misdemeanor in 2023, criminal record in Honolulu, Hawaii, for trespassing and that's about what we know about him. Your thoughts, initial thoughts on this character. We'll talk about this throughout the course of the day. Michael writes in and says it's a good thing Luigi isn't a transgender. We never see that manifesto. Well, I mean, what he is an anti-capitalist Marxist. I think that's fair analysis thus far, at least as what we know about him. And I want to talk more directly to folks who last week expressed I don't know of any reasonable or rational person that expressed any level of support for this individual. I mean, obviously, it's one thing to hate the healthcare industry. It's one thing to hate what healthcare has become. It's quite another thing to take another person's life as a result. There were some nut jobs and crazies on social media celebrating this point, but not many. Not many, and I don't think we should highlight the nut jobs and the crazies and the fringe elements. But there were a lot of people that recognized the emotions that potentially could have been involved in what happened in New York. And that's more of what I want to talk about. Because you can feel both things at the same time. You can be disgusted over this person and understand how emotional the healthcare industry has gotten and become, especially when it's costing people, at least the perception is, well, I think it's a reality that it's costing people their lives. It's 23 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. For those who have not heard, I will be in this position from 3 until 7, much to the delight of some, to the chagrin of others, permanently, starting on January 2nd after Brian Wilson parks the drive in its final destination on December 24th. So that's exciting for me. I hope it's exciting for you as well. We'll get things lumbering under our own weight in a moment on Super Talk.
Luigi Mangione background coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It's 27, almost 28 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just after the top of the hour. Did you talk to Jay, by the way?
I did.
Mr. J-Town?
He's on board.
Thank you. J-Town, former U.S. Attorney of the Northern District of the state of Alabama under Donald J. Trump, will be on with us to talk about the Daniel Penny case, that coming to what I consider to be a very successful conclusion. Also, this manhunt that went on and some other matters involving legal matters. A different J-Town, coming up at 3:35 this afternoon. Tomorrow on the show, Scott Sapighi. Now, this will be back at the normal time from noon until 3. I know it's confusing. I'm on Mondays and Fridays from 3 until 7. Brian Wilson filling in these duties on the drive from Tuesday through Thursday until December 24th, and that is his final full-time day on Super Talk, although he'll be with us plenty. And then starting on January 2nd, I will be from 3 until 7 permanently on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, which is an absolute honor for me, and I so appreciate so many of the kind words that you've offered me and even some of the mean words that you folks have offered me. That's all good, too.
What's your favorite mean word?
I don't really have one right in front of me or one that I could say on the radio. But, I mean, there's been some meanness, sure. I mean, it comes with the territory, Malino.
I think it takes more of a compliment when you're moving up in the world and people say mean things. I would take that as a compliment.
I mean, I've been told I suck. I've been told that I yell too much. I've been told that I'm too aggressive. I've been told that I don't cover the news properly. Yeah.
I get that every half hour.
Oh, well, yeah. And all of that I just said, no, that's all by Ken Weaver. That's all from Ken.
He is aggressive.
I mean, let me tell you. I mean, the listeners are even meaner.
Weaver, you're a liberal.
I don't know how you can stomach being around that ABC News. It's tough, trust me. All right, so this there's a lot of questions that are surrounding this guy, and I understand that a lot of this is ripe for conspiracy. I often tell you that an absence of information leads to speculation, and sadly, speculation often leads to going down roads that are not correct. And it is human in nature that once we go down a road of thought, sometimes we settle on that road of thought as the only road that we could possibly go down. And sadly, that oftentimes will lock us in to thought processes about this kind of stuff. I'm already hearing it. I'm already hearing, how in the world was it that a guy that managed to get away out of New York City walked into a McDonald's? What did he want to be called? I don't know. Maybe he did. I mean, if the guy has a manifesto in his backpack, that indicates to me that he wants the world to know how he sees things. That's kind of what a manifesto is all about. Maybe crazy as a poop house rat, as they say, but that's what a manifesto is all about. So all of that will come out of the wash, and we just have to have patience to try to figure out some of this. It is 3:30. Let's figure out the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And we're learning more by the hour about the person of interest being held in Pennsylvania in connection with the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City street. Here's Dave Packer.
Luigi Mangione was born and raised in Maryland and has an Ivy League pedigree. The University of Pennsylvania confirms the 26-year-old earned both an undergraduate and a master's degree in engineering in 2020. Sources say he was on a Greyhound bus traveling through Altoona on Monday morning when he got off and walked into a McDonald's, where a witness recognized him from images of the suspect circulated by police.
Marine veteran Daniel Penny is a free man, acquitted of all criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, a homeless man who was ranting about dying and killing someone on a crowded New York City subway train last year. Neely's father, Andre, spoke outside the courtroom after the verdict this morning.
I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts.
Here in Nashville, Metro Police say they found the suspect vehicle from a deadly shooting yesterday on I-24. No arrests yet. Someone in that car fired the shot that killed 20-year-old D'Angelo Black, who was in a Saturn Ion. sedan being followed after a confrontation at a gas station. He was sitting in the back seat when he was hit by a bullet. The suspect vehicle found at a North Nashville apartment complex, but again, it was unoccupied. No arrests yet in Black's death. An update on the Morgan Wallen chair-throwing case. News 2 says Wallen will waive his preliminary hearing and his case will be bound over to a grand jury, which will be impaneled sometime next month. The CMA Entertainer of the Year faces 4 charges related to throwing a chair off a Broadway rooftop bar onto the street below in April, narrowly missing 3 Metro police officers standing below. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, dealing with crashes, we've got the 40 westbound off-ramp to go westbound on 24 downtown. Then we got 24 westbound right before Shelby Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Yes, indeed. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A happy Monday afternoon to you. Hope you're doing well. You can find us on 99.7 FM. You can also find us anywhere you stream music, news, information, podcast. If you type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN, you can find us there. And if not, let us know and we'll get there. Of course, you can download our app on any of your smartphone technology. You just go to your app store and type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN and take us wherever you want to go. And then for you masochists in the listening audience, there's Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Like and subscribe if you go over there. And thank you to U.S. Pest for, in part, bringing my ugly face to the television screens around you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Okay, obviously discussing the latest on the Brian Thompson shooting. United Healthcare CEO was shot last week. New York City police believe that they now have the suspect in custody as Luigi Mangione was apprehended in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's earlier today, attempting to make a purchase there. He was noticed. Eventually, police got on the scene. They asked him for identification. He gave what they believed to be false identification. And then from there, they realized that they have their suspect. At least they're calling him a person of interest. I don't know if they've changed from person of interest to suspect, but one would expect that will change pretty soon. Jay Town is a great friend of the show. He is VP and General Counsel of Gray Analytics. He was the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of the state of Alabama from 2017 to 2020, appointed in that position by Donald J. Trump. He knows a little about politics, and he knows a lot about the law. And he joins us on the Matt Murphy Hotline this afternoon to talk about the legal matters that led to the acquittal of Daniel Penny earlier today in New York City, amongst other things. Jay, good to catch up with you. How are you, sir?
I am proud to be on your show. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, it's fabulous to have you, Jay. I mean, the other Jay takes up a lot of our time, but you're a good Jay, too. All the Jays I know are really good at the law. That's all I can tell you.
Well, he's smarter than I am, but he's got a few years on me. So, check back in 25 years when I catch up to him,
Jay, my buddy St. Clair always says that you want a young doctor and an old lawyer. That's what you want.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. So I was so relieved. You mentioned in the lead-in, Matt, that Daniel Penny had been acquitted. And when we see these things pop up on our phone, like most of us probably have with whatever news source you get from on your phone, and it said verdict reached in the Daniel Penny case. And it was about an hour and a half into their deliberations today. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know where they would have fallen because we didn't know what the split was last week when they hung on the reckless murder charge or manslaughter charge is really what it was in New York. And so we didn't know if like 11 people wanted to convict and one wouldn't. And so they dropped it, or if it was the other way or what. But I was so proud of our justice system today and this morning that Daniel Penny, who never should have been charged, NYPD never wanted to arrest him. This was a political prosecution again by Alvin Bragg, and they cut him loose. And it's the worst of the system to see him get arrested and go through this hell. But the best of it, that a jury of his peers saw through the garbage and cut him loose today.
The courtroom obviously was with Daniel Penny. It erupted in applause as they acquitted Penny of criminally negligent homicide. I want to start here. So last week, so there were two charges that he could have been convicted on. One was the manslaughter charge, and the other was criminally negligent homicide. Walk us through the difference in the two, and it seemed to be a little bit of a quirk of the system that the jury was not allowed to consider the second charge until they had figured out what they were going to do with the first. Do I have that right?
You do, and in fact, that's how they were instructed. And they were actually instructed that if they could not reach a verdict on the first charge, then they must find him. They must declare a mistrial. And so for the judge to allow them to even dismiss the more serious charge, the manslaughter charge, so they could deliberate on the negligent homicide, probably was reversible error in and of itself. So the judge dodged a bullet here. Yet another sort of Engoron, Mershon-esque type trial judge that we have in Manhattan What I'll say the difference is, think of it this way. Think of the difference between negligence and reckless. And that's really what this is. Every state has some version of manslaughter or reckless murder, and then some sort of form of negligent homicide. Reckless is you engaged in what is easily known as a very big risk to another person's life, and it cost that person their life. You didn't intend to kill them, but you knew that by shooting them in the belly, even though you said, I don't want to kill you, and you shot them in the belly and it killed them, well, that might not be murder, but it's certainly reckless behavior that could be deemed a manslaughter. In the negligent homicide, what that means is you might not have known that it might cause the death. You certainly didn't intend to cause the death, but a reasonable person would know that it could cause a death. So there's no intent at all involved in a negligence standard. It's just what a reasonable person would think. Not Daniel Penny as a reasonable person, but your 12 jurors, what they think reasonable means. And they thought that, look, putting a guy in a chokehold, it was ridiculous to think they would get a verdict today. My friend Jonathan Turley and others, Andy McCarthy, thought this would be a compromised verdict. But if you weren't going to find that he was reckless, how are you going to find he was negligent? That just sort of struck me as odd because, he either choked a guy out, choked him to death, or he didn't. And I think everybody agrees that if you choke somebody to the point where they lose consciousness, you could kill them. What they were saying in that room was not, well, what's the standard? No, they were saying, hey, he was defending the lives of himself and others on the train. That's what you people don't get. Let me just make this
go ahead.
If I intend to kill someone, but it's in the defense of my life or someone else's, I don't give a damn if I intended to kill him or not. I meant to kill him, because if I didn't, it's kill or be killed. That's what self-defense is when you involve deadly force.
Did it surprise you, though, Jay? So let me see if I'm reading this right. And you have the expertise. Jay Town, former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, is with us. So it felt like the judge was trying to get some form of conviction as to why he dismissed the greater charge last week. That he thought that I wasn't there. No, I wasn't in the courtroom, wasn't in the deliberation. I don't know. Sure. But I'm just speculating that you dismissed the greater charge with the idea being, well, maybe some of the holdout jurors will allow us to move forward with the criminally negligent homicide.
Well, I would. That was definitely Alvin Bragg's strategy, right? He knew he had a loser in the manslaughter from day one. The moment a witness said, "Well, what made you scared of Mr. Neely, the victim in the Penny trial?" Mm-hmm. Well, he said he's going to kill everybody, and he didn't care if he went to prison. Oh, well. Okay.
There you go. Right.
Let's write that down, shall we? Right.
That might seem pertinent when it's time to deliberate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, remember, reasonable person standard. If you think somebody is reasonably a threat to your life, then you can respond, in kind, and that's what Daniel Penny did. And don't forget, Daniel Penny, he got up and left the train and did an interview with the cops, and Neely was still alive that entire time. Right. So, there's maybe lots of reasons why he died, and maybe none of which were because of Daniel Penny. And so now I don't know I think the judge wanted a verdict. I don't know that he wanted a guilty verdict. Bragg obviously did. And he's sitting around in his 56 short suit right now, probably at a Dunkin' Donuts, wondering two things. Should I have ever brought the Trump and the Penny cases? And two, can I actually eat all of them in one sitting?
56 short.
That he thinks. Those are the two things in Alvin Bragg's mind right now. He's not a real prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor my whole life, my whole career. I was a violent crimes prosecutor for most of it. I've tried more murders than whoever tried this Penny case in Manhattan. And I can tell you that this was never a case that ever should have been brought. And I would be honest with you, Matt, if I thought I understood why the grand jury voted the way it did and indicted him, or why NYPD made the arrest. I never understood any of it. And so that's why I'm glad. I'm very proud of our justice system today, because as awful as this was for Penny, it worked perfectly this morning.
Did it at all surprise you that the jury was seemingly hung up on the manslaughter issue? Help me walk through this, Jay. So they're hung up on the manslaughter issue to the point that they go to the court and they say, hey, we can't figure this out. We're not going to be able to do this. We're hung. But when they dismissed that and they went to what for me seemed like even a lower standard, and they didn't seem hung up about that at all. I mean, can you kind of try to put us in that jury room as to what might have happened between the two charges?
Yeah, I think that what this tells us is there was maybe only one holdout that was wanting to vote guilty on the manslaughter charge, and 11 people were. I mean, it certainly didn't swing 1 to 11.
Right.
Or 1 to 12.
Right.
So there's one or two folks who were unable to say he, should just not be guilty. And a lot of times they look down the verdict sheet and see there's another charge, and they're like, well, maybe I probably wouldn't vote for manslaughter, but I'd love to be able to vote for the other one. But then they take the weekend. Huge mistake by Alvin Bragg to let them go home. And they left a little bit early on Friday. Keep them through Saturday and Sunday, and keep them talking. But when they go home, you know what they do? A lot of times anyway, they talk to a husband or a trusted soul, or, they maybe some of them even get out and read the news. They're not supposed to do any of those things. But, it does kind of like, oh my God, the whole world's saying we should cut this guy loose. What the hell have I been thinking? Right? And that one person walks in, 90 minutes of deliberation, the light goes on, not guilty. Daniel Penny's drinking a beer in Midtown by noon.
Well, talk to the audience about and you alluded to it in your opening comments, Jay, about the standard of self-defense and
Sure.
and what that meant in this case and what it means more broadly in our daily life.
So your self-defense, a couple of things people should know is you can't use deadly force to protect anything but life. So you couldn't use somebody stealing your car. You can't use deadly force to keep them from stealing your car. That's not permitted, just de facto under the law. But you can always use proportional amount of force necessary to repel the threat. So when someone says, I'm going to kill everyone in here, and I don't care if I go to prison, well, the stakes have risen now to life and death. If someone has a knife, you can pull a gun. You don't have to shoot them in the kneecaps. When deadly force is authorized, and this comes from my Marine background as well, it's authorized. You can put one right in the grape, or you can put one in their knee. Either way, it's deadly force. And both actually could kill somebody. It just depends on the medical treatment that's available within the next, 10, 12, 45 minutes. And so, but if somebody's using their fists, you got to use fists. If somebody pushes you, you can push them back. It's the kind of the stuff we teach our kids, right? If somebody pushes you, you don't take a flagpole and hit her over the head with it. That's not how you win a fist fight. If there's just one-on-one, you don't have 5 guys jump the one. That's not proportional. It's the stuff we teach our kids, especially our sons. And if you're me, you learned it the hard way coming up. And then, thankfully I learned how to box at Notre Dame and in the Marines, and it's not as big of a problem. I think that it's a lot of common sense, but people also need to know that the threat has to be imminent. It can't be somebody called me from Huntsville and said, I'm going to kill you in the next 10 minutes, Matt Murphy. Well, that's possible perhaps if I'm in Tennessee, but it's certainly not if I'm in Huntsville, Alabama.
Right.
So you can't take that threat. Somebody couldn't show up at my office and kill me in defense of you. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. No, it does. Well, listen, Jay, I want to do this again. I want to do it more often. I love the analysis. I love the 56 short comments. My favorite thing you said all day. And I do appreciate the fact that you're a good Notre Dame man. I mean, one, thank you for your service as a United States Marine. But number two, more importantly, for my purposes right now, how bad are you going to whoop up on Indiana to get to face the Bulldogs in the college football playoff, huh?
I will be there, and I hope that it is badly. But I hope we're playing our 3s and 4s the entire second half. That's what I hope.
We need to get together, and J-Town needs to buy Matt Murphy a ticket to New Orleans to the Sugar Bowl. That's what I think. That's what I
Man,
think.
I got them. Now I'm buying. My goodness.
We're not just
All
going.
right.
You're buying.
We'll make Jason Claire bet.
That's true.
For both of us.
He's got the
That's
cash. Town, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
All right.
All right,
See you
take
next
care. There's Jay Town, a former U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, and all-around good guy. It's 53 after the hour on Super Talk.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Special report, healthcare killing, Michelle Franzen.
The manhunt for the gunman in last week's deadly shooting attack of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has led to an arrest in Pennsylvania. Police in Altoona taking Luigi Mangione in custody, saying he's a person of interest after a McDonald's employee called in a tip from photos of the suspected gunman. ABC's Aaron Katersky says authorities say they found fake IDs, a mask, and a gun similar to the one used in the killing.
The authorities credited good old-fashioned police work with getting that image out from the countless hours of surveillance footage from 60,000 surveillance cameras in New York City, and then the heads-up member of the public who called it in.
Authorities say he is being held on unrelated gun charges and say Mangione is from Maryland. The 26-year-old also graduating from the University of Pennsylvania in 2020.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Well, it looks like all the crashes on the interstates have been cleared, so now we're just dealing with volume in the usual places. East and westbound 40, that's from 24 over to the west side. Then northbound 65 up to 440, also up to the south loop. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hour number 2 starts right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, it's actually started like 6.5 minutes ago, but I get to start my portion of hour number 2 right now. My name is Matt Murphy, not Brian Wilson, in for Brian on the drive. Brian back tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be back Friday. I'm off for a portion of the following week. It gets very confusing around Christmas time. All I can tell you is tune in a lot, and you'll hear a lot of different people on The Drive, on Nashville's Morning News, on the Chris Hand Show. Chad Benson's in, Brian Wilson's in. I mean, there's Ken Weaver back in the newsroom, Joan Jones sometimes in the newsroom. Sometimes it's Jeff Malinoff. Sometimes it's Chris Webber. I don't know. All I can tell you is I'm happy that you're here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can join in on the conversation, 615-737-9986. Always available to you, 615-737-9986. I know all of us on Super Talk, we do it a little bit differently. For those who don't know me as well, I don't know where you've been. I've been here for about 3 years now. But I love the direct line of communication via the phone lines. And so we keep those open often, and we get to phones as quickly as we possibly can. Although I'm going to suspend that for just a minute or two because I think what I'm about to play you is very important. So obviously there have been photos of a gun that was found on the suspect in the CEO's killing. Brian Thompson was killed last week, United Healthcare CEO. This morning, in case maybe some of you are just getting off work, you've been out of pocket for a while, let me just catch you up to some of the breaking news items that are happening today. An individual went into a McDonald's this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And an employee of the McDonald's, we are to understand, felt like that individual was in some fashion resembled photographs that we have seen of the suspect wanted in the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson murder from New York City last week. That employee either contacted a superior or directly contacted the police. The police arrived. Upon questioning this individual, they discovered that he had several fake IDs and that he had a gun on him. He had a manifesto of sorts on him or paperwork, anti-medical insurance industry paperwork, and had even some Monopoly money, I believe. I don't think that all of the Monopoly money that was found in Central Park, I think some of that was still on him. One way or the other, it was investigated to the point that it was discovered that he was, in fact, the suspect in the New York City case, a man by the name of Luigi Mangione. He is now in custody and being questioned by authorities, and the last report I saw was that he was not being very cooperative in terms of the questioning along those lines. So that is an update, and that is a topic of conversation on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Who is this guy? And I want to get further, not necessarily right now, but I want to get further a little bit later on in the show along these lines of the healthcare industry. And I fully understand why people are very frustrated with our health insurance companies. I fully understand why you would be frustrated with United Healthcare. They apparently declined 32% of claims. That is an astronomical declination rate. I mean, far more than any. And I say far more. I think there's one company that's at 27%, and the next company down is at 20%, and the national average is somewhere around 14 or 15% decline. And they're at 32, over double the average. None of that justifies what happened last week in New York. None of it. But I do understand why so many are frustrated with the health insurance industry. I've long said we have the finest medical care on planet Earth in the United States of America. We do. We do not have the best insurance policies. We do not have the best system. And sadly, that system has gotten so large. It is such a behemoth. One wonders if there's any way to dismantle it and to recreate some semblance of it in a better way. Obamacare just made the situation worse, by the way. Obamacare ultimately was designed to fail. But it was designed to bring the healthcare insurance industry down with it so that we could go to single payer. I'll believe that to the day I die. Barack Obama knew, and the Democrats that were in the know, you know, Nancy Pelosi famously said, well, you have to pass it to see what's in it. All of those individuals in the know at the time understood that the design was not to repair our medical insurance industry long term or to create fixes. It was to create poison pills to destroy it so that the government could fully take it over, much like you've seen in Canada, much like you've seen in Great Britain. And none of those systems work, by the way. But that's coming up. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes. I don't know who needs to hear this. But the other big breaking news item today came out of New York City. Jurors in New York City sided with Daniel Penny's defense attorneys today, who had argued that the Marine veteran was justified in rushing to protect fellow subway strap hangers when he subdued an erratic homeless man by the name of Jordan Neely. Lawyers also questioned whether there was sufficient evidence that the chokehold itself caused Jordan Neely's death. Defense attorneys successfully defended Daniel Penny in this case. A Manhattan jury has now cleared Daniel Penny of any criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a crowded subway. A caught-on-video event that sparked debate over the city's mental health system, crime, underground, particularly. The courtroom erupted in applause earlier today as the panelists acquitted Penny of criminally negligent homicide, which could have put him behind bars for the next 4 years. The general feeling was that the prosecution in the case knew they couldn't get manslaughter, and they were about to have a hung jury on manslaughter. So they dismissed the manslaughter charge in the hope that the jury would say, okay, well, criminally negligent homicide is a smaller charge. Manslaughter would have carried like 15 years. Criminally negligent homicide around 4 years. So perhaps those holdout jurors will allow us to go forward with that. Well, it turns out that the jury, and we'll find out, maybe, I don't know what the rules are in New York City in the judicial system there. I don't know if there's a polling of the jury. I don't know if jurors are allowed to talk to mainstream media, or if mainstream media is allowed to talk to jurors, I should say it that way. One way or the other, maybe we'll know, maybe we'll never know what the split was. Was it 10-2? Was it 11-1? Was it 9-3? We don't know. But we know that once they dismissed manslaughter, when they came back after a weekend break, it was only about an hour and a half before they came back with an ultimate decision of not guilty. Thank the Lord. I mean that. I don't want Jordan Neely dead. I don't want anybody to die, but guess what? All of you will. Every single one of you. I mean, I don't want anybody to die, but all of us will at some point. And I don't want Jordan Neely to die. But given the choice between the guy that's being aggressive and threatening to kill other people on the subway or the people that he's threatening to kill, obviously I'm going to defend first and foremost those individuals that are being threatened by Jordan Neely, which is what Daniel Penny did. We want more Daniel Pennies in the world. We want more men standing up, or women, in America. We need more of this type of masculinity in America and around the globe, really. We need good people that are willing to stand between bad people and the people that they're trying to attack, which is what Daniel Penny did. That's not toxic. And there's nothing wrong with masculinity. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with standing up and defending people that cannot perhaps defend themselves, which is what Daniel Penny did. And did so in a way not trying to kill anyone, but attempting to subdue someone to the point that they were no longer a threat. I don't know who needs to hear it. It's about 3 minutes long, but I think it's important because maybe some of you have never heard from Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny is a model citizen who should have been praised by the city of New York. The New York City Police Department didn't want to bring this case. Alvin Bragg made them. Listen to Mr. Penny. This is from, I don't know exactly how long ago it was. It was before the verdict, obviously, but listen to his description of what happened.
East Village in Manhattan. So I take the subway multiple times a day. In this instance, I was coming from school. I got out of class around 2:15, and I took the I was at J Street Metro Tech, took the Uptown F train. At 2nd Avenue, a man came on, stumbled on. He appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed, and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time, and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. And the three main threats that he repeated over and over was, I'm going to kill you. I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die. You know, this was a scary situation, and Mr. Neely came on. He was threatening. I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me, so it was. And there's a common misconception that Marines don't get scared. We're actually taught one of our core values is courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, but how you handle fear. And you know, I was scared for myself, but I looked around, I saw women and children. He was yelling in their faces, saying these threats. I couldn't just sit still. Some people say that I was holding on to Mr. Neely for 15 minutes. This is not true. I mean, between stops is only a couple minutes. So the whole interaction lasted less than 5 minutes. Some people say I was trying to choke him to death, which is also not true. I was trying to restrain him. You can see in the video, there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he's breathing. I'm trying to restrain him from him being able to carry out the threats. And then some people say that this was about race, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't see a black man threatening passengers. I saw a man threatening passengers. A lot of whom were people of color. The man who helped restrain Mr. Neely was a person of color. And then a few days after the incident, I read in the papers that a woman of color came out and called me a hero. I don't believe that I'm a hero, but she was one of those people that I was trying to protect. We were all scared. Mr. Neely was yelling in these passengers' faces, and they looked terrified. The reason why there was no video at the start of the altercation was because people were too afraid getting away from him, and the videos didn't start until they saw that situation was under control. I knew I had to act, and I acted in a way that would protect the other passengers, protect myself, and protect Mr. Neely. I used this hold to restrain him, and I did this by leaving my hand on top of his head to control his body. You can see in the video there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he was still breathing. And I'm calibrating my grip based on the force that he's exerting. And I was trying to keep him on the ground until the police came. I was praying that the police would come and take this situation over. I didn't want to be put in that situation, but I couldn't just sit still and let him carry out these threats.
There's one thing that I disagree strenuously with Daniel Penny on, and that is that he is not a hero. And we need more people in the world like Daniel Penny. We need to promote the Daniel Pennies of the world and praise them. I don't know how many of you have been on New York City subways. I don't know how many of you have been on the Washington, D.C. Metro or the Chicago L or mass transit in Boston. I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough, depending on your perspective, to be on all of those mass transit systems. And any length of time spent on these systems, you meet these people. You encounter these people. And I'm talking about people who are clearly on some form of drug, who are under the influence of something or another, or who exhibit clear mental disturbance. I'm not trying to act in a prejudiced manner against these people. You're just observing things that are around you. These are observable moments in time. And for the most part, what happens? People attempt to ignore the individuals, and the individuals not always, but sometimes. And I'm thinking of a specific instance that happened to me in New York City and another instance that happened at the Metro in Washington, D.C., where they commandeer the car in terms of they know that people are afraid. They know that no one's going to do anything to them. And they take over the car. They scream and they yell and they take control of the car. And when you get to a stopping point, man, just watch the people flood out of that car. And oftentimes, you'll see people flood out of these cars and go to another car or try to go to another car. But you're worried that if you get up or if that you say anything or if you make eye contact, you're going to make the situation worse. That's no way to live. The inmates are running the asylum in these places. And sadly, the New York City Police Department do not have the resources and do not have the backing of their superiors to do something about it. It's 22 after the hour. We'll continue this conversation in a moment with you. 615-737-9986. It's Matt Murphy on The Drive.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
The manhunt for a suspect in the CEO murder is over with the arrest of a man at a fast food joint. We'll tell you about it at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. We've got a few other things to get to as well. Syria is descending into, has descended into chaos. We'll try to understand what that means. Donald Trump over the weekend attempted to encourage Vladimir Putin to take advantage of this by moving toward peace with Ukraine. In the meantime, Volodymyr Zelensky wants Western troops in Ukraine. Or at least he said he would that would be acceptable to him. I'm not sure it would be acceptable to him. What kind of Western troops are we talking about? Us? Boots on the ground? I don't think so. In the meantime, Joe Biden's administration is attempting to do everything in its power to shore up his political allies and make sure that they are immune from any sort of prosecution, despite what illegal activity they may be engaged in prior to Donald Trump taking office. All of those subjects will be on the table on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN on this Monday edition. Plus your thoughts, perhaps you have none, thoughts on the acquittal of Daniel Penny. It's one thing to, I did not think good things coming out of Friday with regard to Daniel Penny. I was concerned that by offering the jury an opportunity to throw a lesser charge at him, that you would see the jury take up on that opportunity. And when we heard that a jury verdict had been reached early today on this Monday, I'm like, I'm sad to say I thought the worst. I thought Daniel Penny was going to be sadly found guilty of charges that never should have been brought against him. But the foreperson on the jury told the courtroom earlier today that they've come to a conclusion, a unanimous decision on count 2, and that unanimous decision was not guilty. The question is, who are we going to give the benefit of the doubt to in our society? Are we prepared to give the benefit of the doubt to the do-gooders, to literally the people that are trying to do good in our society, or are we going to continue to give the benefit of the doubt to the bad guys? Now, that is not to say that vigilanteism in and of itself is allowable. It's not. Of course it isn't. It is also not to say that we can have people running around attempting to take the law into their own hands with regard to how they respond to criminal activity. But this was a specific case. Hank Newsom, who is founder of the Black Lives Matter of Greater New York, is a racist. And he's not a good human being. And we'll hear from him in just a moment as to how he wants people to respond to the acquittal of Daniel Penny. That's coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and time for the news.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Police are questioning 26-year-old Luigi Mangione as a person of interest in the murder of Brian Thompson last week. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch says Mangione was spotted inside a fast food restaurant in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning.
The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police.
Mangione was born and raised in Maryland. He graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with both an undergraduate and a master's degree in engineering in 2020. Right now in Nashville, Metro officials say the emergency overflow shelter helped 1,308 people seeking refuge from the cold last week. EMS was called on 2 consecutive days for seizures with the same guest. One guest called EMS for himself during a mental health crisis. No other major medical emergencies. And in money news, here's Michelle Franzen.
Stock market superstar NVIDIA pulled indexes down today after China said it's investigating the chip giant for alleged antitrust violation. The Dow Jones lost 241 points. The S&P slipped by 37, and the broader NASDAQ composite dropped 123 points. TikTok is exhausting all legal avenues to avoid shutting down by mid-January. The popular social media platform app has asked a federal appeals court to stop the Biden administration from banning it until the Supreme Court reviews the case. Congress passed a law that calls for TikTok to be shut down unless it is sold by its Chinese parent company. About 150 million Americans use TikTok. Taylor Swift is shattering records. The just-ended 2-year-long worldwide Eras Tour brought in about $2.2 billion from 149 shows in 5 continents.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, in addition to the usual slowdowns this time of day, we do have a crash reported by police at 40 westbound in Hermitage Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy on The Drive. Thank you for being with us this Monday edition, December 9. Man, oh man, I'm just. Is it 2 weeks before Christmas? Is that right? It's a little over 2 weeks before.
Oh God,
Christmas?
I gotta do shopping.
It's like it's a 2 weeks and a couple of days before Christmas.
It's like a deadline. Like when you're old, when you're at our age now, it's like you have a final due in college. Like you're worried about it now because you got to do all this studying and preparing, making sure everything is right.
I know. When did this happens every year? It's not like the calendar changes, but for me, you're going along and it's football season and you're having a good time and you're enjoying yourself, and then suddenly, whammo! It's Halloween, and whammo! It's Thanksgiving, and now it's 2025.
Now I got to go to Amazon and find presents for my family.
What do you get the folks something?
Oh, of course. They keep saying no because, that's parents' thing, but I always get them something.
Yeah.
I get my dad, I gave him, I think 2 years ago, I gave him a shirt that says, I'm not old, I'm classic, and it's a old Mustang on it.
You got your dad that shirt?
Yeah, he liked it. It was I think he liked it.
You know what you should get your dad this year?
What?
A round of golf at that golf course with me. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming your dad would ultimately pay for it, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think I'll just give him a...
No? No good?
Well, I mean, he goes there every day, so, I mean...
So it would be... Are you saying that would be more like a present to me?
Oh, I see. So instead of giving it to him, I have to give it to somebody, and it should be you.
No, I just got confused. I was just confused.
Well, he was the member of the golf course, but the golf course has this, family clause where if one person's a member, the family is a member as well.
I'm sure that the golf course regrets that.
I don't think they do.
I'm just kidding.
But I got my mom a jewelry last year. I might give her that again. And then I have to give my brothers something and their wives something and then their kids something.
Are you going over your entire family right now? Because I think maybe we should.
I have a lot.
I don't think maybe we should do that.
I have a lot of shopping to do. I'm just saying. I have a lot of shopping to do on a short budget.
And I got this person and that person. And I got my buddy back home, and I don't think we should do any of these things. I think we should move on with a little content.
Nah.
Well, you let me know what you want, Malinoff, and
fair.
So I'll get you some sort of wiretap or
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Listening device, some sort of thing.
Wait, I get it. I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Do you know? Well, I'm not going to ask because I don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's not Christmas time. Anyway, it is December 9th, and that would be 2 weeks and a couple of days before the jolly old fella goes down the chimney. All right, real quick. So one final note on Daniel Penny, 615-737-9986, a good news acquittal in that case this morning, which some are suggesting marks the end of the BLM era, the Black Lives Matter era, that kind of popped up a little bit out of Ferguson, Missouri, which was based on an entire lie. I mean, so many of these things are just based on a mischaracterization of true events. Ferguson, Missouri was a complete mischaracterization of what actually happened between Michael Brown and Officer Wilson. I think that's right. I forget his first name. Back in, 2014, the hands up, don't shoot narrative became a part of popular culture. Never happened. Really, in the summer of 2020, it popped its ugly head back up, and we saw multiple burnings of various cities around the United States of America as a result of the death of George Floyd. George Floyd, who is invariably amongst Black Lives Matter activists, considered to be a hero. George Floyd was not a hero. George Floyd was a thug that didn't necessarily deserve to die, but was a thug nonetheless. Just because there was a death and that someone was found to be in the wrong for engaging in that death doesn't make somebody that died a hero. Similarly, in this situation, there was a hero on that subway car, and there was an individual that was the aggressor, and that aggressor was subdued, and the hero, it was determined, was acting in a fashion of self-defense. But that's not the way that everybody sees it. Some folks say that it is open season on black people. Folks like Black Lives Matter leader Hawk Newsom, who... Well, I'll let you determine what you think Hawk might be talking about here. This is in front of the courtroom in New York City this morning.
Just like everybody else has vigilantes, we need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us. and kill us for being loud? How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
Tired.
I know you're looking for us to be like, oh, go and march. Go and march. No. This weekend, I want you to hold a community event everywhere from the Bronx to Houston to Seattle to Florida. Black people hold community events and talk about what you need.
So does it sound to anyone else like there's a point where Hawk Newsom is calling for I don't want to inflame already sensitive passions here, but
and choke us and kill us for being loud? How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
All right, so there's Hawk Newsom suggesting that they need to kill people for, quote-unquote, attempting to oppress us. I would recommend, not that Hawk Newsom or anybody else from the Black Lives Matter organization, and by the way, you're welcome to call this radio show and talk to me at any point. I'm happy to have a reasonable conversation with anyone about these matters, about policing within the black community, policing within any community. But as far as I could tell on that subway car, there were people of all colors from all walks of life. There were black people that seemed to be frustrated with the manner in which Jordan Neely was conducting himself. There were black people that assisted Daniel Penny in taking Jordan Neely down and removing him as a threat to other passengers on that train. There were people of all shapes, sizes, and colors on that car. And you know what they did? They came to testify as witnesses for the defense about how they felt, about how scared they were. This guy doesn't give one rip about black people, in my estimation. He cares about money. He cares about green, in my estimation. I'm happy to hear where I'm wrong. Dan is next in Scottsville. Hello, Dan. Glad you called.
Hey, Mr. Murphy. How are you this evening?
I'm
sir?
great. Thank you.
I got a two-part question, and they are not related. My first part of the question is, if you're driving down the road and witness a car accident, you get out, you render first aid, first responder kind of thing, you're covered under Good Samaritan law if something happens. Why can't people who are, I'm not going to say vigilante, obviously, because he was not. He was trying to defend innocent people. Why can't they not fall under the same guidelines as the Good Samaritan laws and be protected? And my second question, sir, is we have truth in advertising laws. Why can't we have truth in political advertising? Why are candidates allowed to disinformation each other and largely stretch the truth beyond any reasonable truth, and they get a pass for it? I'm going to hang up so I can hear your response.
Well, sure. I mean, and you don't necessarily have to hang up, Dan, but I understand that. I mean, and I appreciate the nature of the question. So with regard to advertising in America, there is a concept known as puffery. And in political advertising, the perspectives get even more gray. But the concept of puffery has been around for a long, long time in advertising circles. So you cannot say something that isn't true when you are advertising. But what you can do is you can offer an exaggerated description of a good or service based on the opinions of individuals or the opinions of those engaging in the advertising. So puffery is a legal term in commercial law that regards an exaggerated description of a good or a service. Well, political advertising has engaged in somewhat of a reverse puffery, meaning that they take some of the least likable in negative advertising in political campaigns. They take some of the least likable characteristics of their political adversary and they hyper-focus on those least appealing aspects of their political lives or of their personal lives, and they build those up to mean more or to present more prominently than they perhaps would otherwise. puffery is legal. What I can't say is, let me give you an example of puffery. So the Matt Murphy radio show is the best radio show in America, hands down. Everybody's talking about it and everybody's saying it. Now, did I say anything wrong or illegal? Well, of course not. Is that true? Probably not either. But I have used emotion and I have used matters of opinion to puff myself up in a hyperbolic way. And, I mean, the characteristics of puffery are that the claims are often subjective rather than factual. It's a matter of hyperbole, and they are non-verifiable claims. Everybody's talking about how great Matt Murphy is. Well, who's everybody? Well, you know, there's this guy and that other guy. You know, I just saw, we're watching the movie Elf it's everywhere this time of year. And in the movie Elf, when he takes the girl back to have the world's greatest cup of coffee because they have a sign outside of their business that says the world's greatest cup of coffee, and he walks in and goes, congratulations, congratulations. That's puffery, right? You can say, we've got the world's greatest cup of coffee. Well, according to who? Well, according to me. That's who. So in a lot of ways, the political ads that you reference, they're dealing with puffery. And so I can say, well, candidate Johnson lies. He's constantly lying about his political record. And you say this, and you always say it in this type of voice. He's a liar. Because oftentimes it is far more damaging to A, address the charges, or B, go after the person in a legal fashion than it is to just kind of work your own angles and engage in your own type of thing. Now, more overall to the point of negative advertising in politics, folks say that they don't like it, but the campaigns continue to do it. Why do you think that is? If negative advertising in political campaigns didn't work, the candidates would stop doing it. But they don't. They don't. Which indicates to me that it must work. Otherwise, they'd stop. Now, as far as Good Samaritan laws, we'll get to that in just a moment. It's 51 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Good old-fashioned police work, credited with today's arrest in the healthcare killing manhunt. We'll tell you about it at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Don't forget about that McDonald's employee either, Ken Weaver.
Oh,
that was good. That was a good part of that, too. Ken Weaver's got the news coming up in just a minute or two on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've got what happened there, Malinoff? What are you doing over there?
That was a premature cutoff. I see what I did there.
Well said. Well said.
I was also distracted by this email we literally just got about tomorrow.
Premature audio ejection. Is that what you're saying?
Come on, man.
What? That's a fair way to characterize what just happened.
Ejection, an audio stoppage.
Well, okay, sure.
Audio cutoff.
Premature stoppage.
Everything came to a halt. It halted.
Is that what we got an email? Was that about Toyfield?
Yes, it was.
I'm very excited about Toyfield tomorrow. Toyfield's happening at Nissan Stadium, and I don't know the deets, but I bet if Malinoff got an email, I got an email, and we're going to tell you about the deets coming up in the 5 o'clock hour because we need your help benefiting youngsters in our community that perhaps won't have a solid Christmas, and presents under the tree. We want to do what we can. You guys show up and show out every single year, and we're going to be there all day tomorrow with the entire team. Whether it's Chris Hand or Matt Murphy or Chad Benson, Dan Mandis, Brian Wilson will be on board tomorrow from 3 until 7. I think I'll be out there from 3 until 5. I think that's my shift. So we'll tell you all about that coming up in just a moment. I'll also tell you about the Good Samaritan law that the caller referenced. It does not apply to, as far as I can tell, it applies to individuals that are attempting to render medical treatment or assistance in the event of an emergency. It does not apply to anyone acting in the defense of another person in the event that there's an individual threatening that person. It's code 63-6-218. 2023 Tennessee code, as a matter of fact. So this thing was just passed about a year or so ago. It is the Good Samaritan law in the state of Tennessee. And the caller wants to know, well, why couldn't we extend that to apply to these types of situations with Daniel Penny? Well, we'll address that in just a moment. Plus, Donald Trump met the press over the weekend. He gave his first sit-down interview since winning the 47th presidency of the United States of America. We'll share some of that with you coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast, traffic updates in 5 minutes. Special report, healthcare killing update. Michelle Franzen.
A trail of clues and sharp eyes leading to an arrest in Pennsylvania today, connected to last week's targeted shooting death of Brian Thompson, the head of United Healthcare. Police in Altoona arrested a person of interest, they say, on unrelated charges after a McDonald's employee reported him, saying he fit the description of photos released publicly. New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch identifying the man of interest as 26-year-old Luigi Mangione.
Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual.
Authorities say they also found writings believed to be the person of interest that could point to motive and mindset. The University of Pennsylvania says Mangione graduated from 2020 with a degree in engineering.
Former Democratic representative and presidential contender, now Donald Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continued visiting senators on Capitol Hill today to secure confirmation votes.
My own views and experiences have been shaped by my multiple deployments and seeing firsthand the cost of war and the threat of Islamist terrorism.
That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, usual slowdowns getting home at this time of day, but now we've got a little extracurricular activity. It's a multi-vehicle crash. It is 40 westbound in the Nations. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is indeed The Drive. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson this Monday edition, December 9. Hope everyone's doing well as the drive home begins for some of you. I hope it's going as good as possible. We'll try to keep you up to date. Everything's happening on the roadways and whatnot. We'll keep you up to date from the newsroom. Ken Weaver resides there. He's got headlines for you. Jeff Malinoff, in the absence of Chris Webber, is behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. And I am your humble host. My name is Matt Murphy, and I am here until 7 o'clock, or they boot me off the radio, whichever happens first. Glad to have you with us and glad to have you participating in the broadcast. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. 615-737-9986, either via phone lines or the super text line. Both of those are up and running. Already discussing, I'll kind of reset the storylines for you. A couple of breaking news items, the biggest breaking news stories of the day. There's a third story that I consider to be pretty fascinating, and it happened over the weekend involving Syria and the dispatching of Assad over there as president of Syria. But the two stories that broke today, one, I consider it to be great news. I think most reasonable people consider it to be great news, and that is a jury in New York City has determined that Daniel Penny was not guilty of criminally negligent homicide after being deadlocked on the charge of manslaughter, to the point that Alvin Bragg asked the judge in the case to remove that charge altogether. The judge dismissed that charge last week and then released the jury for the weekend. The jury came back, and after deliberating for about an hour and a half on the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide, they determined that Daniel Penny was not guilty. Most rational people can see this in the way the jury saw it. That while it was a series of unfortunate events, while, we don't necessarily wish for the death of Jordan Neely, the bottom line was this, that he was on a subway car and he was actively and repeatedly threatening people on that subway car, causing them to fear for their life, to include Daniel Penny. And Daniel Penny utilized his training in the United States Marines to do what he felt was necessary to do to subdue Jordan Neely for the purpose of protecting himself and protecting everybody else on that subway car. Now, this speaks to a broader point, and that is that you have a mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, that claims to believe in law and order. I mean, he came from a police background, for goodness sake. What in the hell is happening to New York City? I've not been in a while. New York City has gone through its periods of crime running rampant, and it's gone through periods of finding solutions to their criminal issues. Sadly, during the Biden administration, I'm not absolving New York City of anything. I mean, during the de Blasio era and sadly during the beginnings of the Eric Adams era, they have had a soft on crime approach that exacerbates these problems. But a lot of this was brought on to them through no fault of their own. The Biden administration has allowed millions and millions of individuals to come into our country unvetted, unfettered by our immigration law, and allowed them to flock to our major metropolitan areas. And New York City is an obvious example of where they've gone. And you've overloaded the system to the point that the New York City Police Department couldn't handle it if they wanted it to. They have a criminal gang issue going on in that city right now, an illegal alien gang issue happening in that city. Plus, you combine that with some of the rules or some of the laws, I should say, that have been passed by the state of New York with regard to bail or a lack of bail. I mean, they have cashless bail in New York. You commit a crime, and unless it is the most egregious of crimes, they just let you back out to commit again. Oh, simple robbery? Get back out on the street, kid. Don't worry about it. Slap on the wrist. Don't do that again. Better show up to your court date. Are you kidding me? Rudy Giuliani had an approach that worked in New York City, and that was that if you take a tough love approach to the smaller offenses, you don't allow those things to turn into bigger offenses, certainly by the same people. And if you consider that in reverse, if you just slap individuals on the wrist for some of those smaller offenses, eventually they graduate to bigger things. Well, thank goodness, even in New York City, a jury could see through some of the nonsense being presented by Alvin Bragg and his DA's office. And they had a unanimous verdict come down on the second count, which was criminally negligent homicide. Daniel Penny is now going free. There is, I believe, a civil aspect to this that is running concurrent with the criminal aspect, but thankfully he's not going to see a jail cell. And if I were on the civil jury, he sure as hell would not have to pay a penny to anybody. Sadly, Jordan Neely was failed by the mental health, the various mental health divisions and departments in New York City. I don't know what sort of mental issues Jordan Neely was going through, but he obviously had them, and he obviously had a very severe drug problem, both of which were on display on that fateful day in the subway. And while I could wish that he had a better outcome, I can sit here and wish that he wasn't dead. And that's all fine. But that's not to say that Daniel Penny did not act with reason, with rational thought, and with his own personal self-defense in mind and the defense of the other people on that subway car in mind. Now, a caller last hour asked about whether or not our Good Samaritan laws could ultimately apply to criminal activity. And the short answer is I don't know, and I've not been able to find out. I do know this, that in the state of Tennessee, we have a Good Samaritan law that was passed, and my information has it passed in 2023. It is Tennessee Code 63-6-218. That shields individuals from legal liability if they, quote, unintentionally injure another person while rendering medical treatment or trying to assist in an emergency. The law is based on the principle, and the fairly obvious principle for most of us, that good public policy would support individuals attempting to render aid to other people. What we don't want is people to be fearful that if they render aid, they might find themselves in the midst of some sort of civil lawsuit or, God forbid, criminal charges rolling against them. So if you perform in the state of Tennessee, if you roll up on somebody and they look to be having I was at the Titans game yesterday, Nissan Stadium, right? God forbid, but in public places, sometimes these things happen where somebody falls out and it looks like they're having some sort of cardiac arrest. Well, if you engage in CPR and you break their ribs, they can't sue you for the damages for breaking their ribs because you were attempting to do your best to render aid to that individual. The law also protects people who act in good faith and within the scope of their training or their own personal ability, and it encourages people to help others without fear of legal or financial repercussions. But it does not go into whether or not you can do so. I mean, we also have what is called the Castle Doctrine, and I think that's a part of Tennessee law, if I'm not mistaken. I know it is in Alabama. I've not had this direct conversation in Tennessee, but in Alabama, if you are determined to be protecting your castle, if you will, that you can use whatever force necessary in order to do that so long as you fear for your own personal safety in the process of defending yourself. Right? So, and I think I have that exactly right. So long as you have a generalized fear of your own personal safety, you can be proactive in your approach. You have no duty to flee, in other words. You can stay on your property and you can defend your property, and you do not have a duty to leave. Before Alabama passed that law, and some of you that have been in Tennessee a long time, if you know, I mean, I would be surprised if Tennessee doesn't have a version of this. So previous to that, if you are in your home and somebody breaks into your home, right, and you hear them in the living room, prior to the Castle Doctrine law being, as I understand it, and y'all call me if I've got it wrong, I don't think I do, 615-737-9986, that if you're in your bedroom and you hear somebody breaking into your living room, that your first duty prior to the Castle Doctrine being passed is to get out of the house. And you basically have to give your house to the bad guys. Once the Castle Doctrine was passed, you do not have a duty to flee your own property or your own home, and you can defend yourself as a result of not fleeing. So your first option doesn't have to be to leave. Your first option can be to stand in to fight, which is a good thing. So, Daniel Penny, congratulations to you. The second item that came down today, and many of you have probably heard by now, certainly if you've caught any of our news throughout the course of the day, is that authorities believe that they have the individual who is suspected of the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in custody. The individual who is believed to have shot from behind Brian Thompson outside of a New York City Hilton hotel hours before a shareholder conference was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's this morning. The man's name is Luigi Nicholas Mangione. Arrested after an employee of said McDonald's. You know, I made the joke earlier today, but I don't even think it's a joke. I think it's a reality. If you want to know who's going to be the next employee of the month at this McDonald's, well, it's whoever spotted him and pointed him out, thought he matched the suspect on a wanted poster. Police responded to the location for reports of a person matching that description, and eventually they questioned him, searched him, found various fake identification on him, and took him into custody. High-level law enforcement sources saying that he had a ghost gun similar to the suspected murder weapon. Don't know if it's the same one. There was a suppressor on this. There was several fake identification, pieces of identification in his belongings. There was also something that was described in several various sources as a manifesto that was also in his belongings. The suspect has now arrived at the courthouse, and this happening some 18 minutes ago. Mangione arrived at the Blair County Courthouse in Hollidaysburg. I would assume that's Pennsylvania. Hollidaysburg. Hollidaysburg. Don't look at me like that. It's Hollidaysburg. Yeah, you gave me a look. I saw your look. You gave me a look. Like, what is Murphy talking about? That's what it's called.
To cough. That is slander.
Let me tell you, Pennsylvania has some of the weirdest named places on planet Earth.
This is true.
It's like every day's a holiday here. Well, let's call the place Hollidaysburg. Hey, look, there's a lot of mechanics around here. Well, let's call the place Mechanicsburg. You know what I'm saying, Weaver?
What's Pittsburgh then? Where do they get pit from?
Have you ever been?
There's a hole in the ground?
Have you ever been?
No, I've never been to Pittsburgh.
It's the pits. Don't get.
Have you tried the Pittsburgher? I heard that's a good thing.
The Pittsburgher?
Yeah, apparently it's like a burger with like French fries and it's greasy and it's supposed to be really good. It's like
that's a good start.
It's like their competition with the Philly cheesesteak because they had to be a one-up Philly.
Yeah,
well,
that's a good fight.
I tell you what, we could take a road trip. Woo! Me, you, Weaver.
Oh, I'm absolutely game with it.
We just go back and forth and say that other fella makes a better burger. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, you're going to have to try a little bit harder, pal. Oh, you did. Look, there's one. Oh, well, let's go back over and tell him.
Wow.
Man, you know, it's always this time of day that we start talking about food. I don't know if y'all have noticed or not.
We're all hungry.
We start getting a little bit hungry.
Yeah.
The gunman and the suspected gunman, I should say, in the killing of the United Healthcare Brian Thompson is appearing in court this evening. Preliminary arraignment for Luigi Mangione at 6 o'clock, and I guess that's 6 o'clock local time. That would have been Eastern time, so it's about 20 minutes ago. The Blair County Courthouse in Hollidaysburg. A spokesperson for the Pennsylvania State Courts said he will and is appearing in person. So we'll update you on any of that information as time warrants. In the meantime, Donald Trump sat down for his first long-form interview with a member of the mainstream media. I mean, he's talked to some others in the aftermath of his victory on November 5th, but he had himself a little sit down with Kristen Welker of NBC. Apparently he likes Kristen. Fair enough. He told her at one point that she could be really good if she would just be a little less biased or a lot less biased. He sat down with this woman for an hour and 16 minutes answering anything and everything. And I've got some selected cuts from you in just a moment. It's 22 after the hour. Your calls as well. 615-737-9986 as we continue on the drive.
What we have learned about the person of interest being questioned in the healthcare CEO murder coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver, back in News Closet B on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 27 minutes after the hour right now. Hope your drive home is going well. Matt Murphy with you till 7 o'clock tonight. And many of you on the phones, let's get to Anthony, who, as we open up the phone lines to discuss stand your ground legislation and all sorts of manners of other things. Hello, Anthony. Glad you called.
Hey, Matt, great show.
Thank you, sir.
In Tennessee, there's also, besides defending yourself, there's also a defense of others statute where if you see someone just totally getting the crap beat out of them, you can try to jump in and protect that person.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent.
All right.
So I think that would probably cover,
Yes. Yeah, I think
a similar type deal to what happened to Daniel Penny. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Well,
all right, thank you, man.
Well, thank you,
and
Anthony.
by the way, I'm from Alabama too, so roll Tide.
Well, Anthony, I appreciate the sentiment there. I'm not actually from Alabama. I'm from the state of Georgia, just outside of Augusta. I lived in Alabama for 20 years, and I heard Roll Tide a lot. It was said to me most often when Alabama was beating the brains out of the Georgia Bulldogs. I got a lot of Roll Tides after that. But good for y'all. Y'all had a fine season. Not quite good enough to end yourself in the college football playoffs. Got squeaked out. I mean, the rules indicated you had to have SMU go in there. I like to pick on Alabama fans, but it is what it is, and we'll see what turns out. Congratulations to you Tennessee Volunteer fans, by the way. Get to play Ohio State in the opening round of the
Buckeyes.
They got the worst road of any other team.
By the way, I don't know. For those of you who, like the previous caller, are Alabama Crimson Tide fans, I don't hear nearly enough of y'all giving Ken Weaver hell about getting left out of the playoffs.
Okay.
I mean, you know why that would be, right?
Yeah, I know, because they got blown out by Oklahoma. But
there you go.
But they're more upset with SMU, which is like, no.
That's not why you're out of the playoffs.
In my opinion, the Tide fans are complaining like it's like they are just like this Power Five or a Group of Five school that's never made it to the title. You just blew their only chance of being successful. It's like you guys won like 12 championships in 20 years. Get over it.
Look, I understand being a little, sucking your thumb a little bit. I mean, let me tell you, if Georgia had lost on Saturday, with our quarterback going down, there's a possibility they would have booted us out of the playoffs.
Very real chance.
Because
you would have gotten Florida State's.
They kind of established that precedent. But I don't hear nearly enough people giving Weaver the business. We need more of that.
I just can't wait to make another oven.
He's too much of a sweetheart, man. He's too good of a person to be mad at.
Weaver made exactly 11 oven mitts over the course of the season. I don't believe that one of those oven mitts was made during the Oklahoma-Alabama game. I don't believe that was the case. But I could be wrong. I'll tell you what, we'll get more of your calls in here in a moment. Scott and Paul right after the news. It's 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And we're learning more about the person of interest being held in Pennsylvania in connection with the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City street. Here's Dave Packer.
Luigi Mangione was born and raised in Maryland and has an Ivy League pedigree. The University of Pennsylvania confirms the 26-year-old earned both an undergraduate and a master's degree in engineering in 2020. Sources say he was on a Greyhound bus traveling through Altoona on Monday morning when he got off and walked into a McDonald's, where a witness recognized him from images of the suspect circulated by police.
Marine veteran Daniel Penny, a free man, acquitted of all criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, a homeless man who was ranting about dying and killing someone on a crowded New York City subway train last year when he was put in that chokehold. Neely's father, Andre, spoke outside the courtroom after the verdict this morning.
I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts.
Daniel Penny claimed self-defense. More than 40 witnesses were called. Some who testified Neely was a hero, saying that Penny was a hero and that Neely terrified them that day. Here in Nashville, Metro Police say they found the suspect vehicle from a deadly shooting yesterday on I-24, but no arrests yet. Someone in that car, police say, fired the shot that killed 20-year-old D'Angelo Black, who was in a Saturn Eon sedan being followed after a confrontation at a gas station. Black was sitting in the back seat when the bullet hit him. The suspect vehicle found later unoccupied at an apartment complex in North Nashville. Update on the Morgan Wallen chair-throwing case. News 2 says Wallen will waive his preliminary hearing, and his case will be bound over to a grand jury to be impaneled sometime next month. Wallen faces 4 charges related to throwing a chair off of a Broadway rooftop bar onto the street below in April, narrowly missing 3 Metro police officers standing below. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Here we go with the crash in West Nashville. The right shoulder is blocked. That's 40 westbound right after 46th. And then in Berry Hill, we've got 65 northbound right there at 440. Police on the scene of a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. This story involving the suspect in the case of the murder, the assassination of CEO Brian Thompson has me intrigued. Luigi Mangione is his name. He has been arraigned. He has made an appearance in court now, and we'll have an update on the suspect in the killing of the CEO. What fascinates me are the number of people, and look, I've long said that social media, particularly the X machine, but there are other platforms, it can be an awful place. It's a cesspool full of awful people saying awful things anonymously, and there's never a comeuppance. It's a lot more difficult to say something to someone personally or on the telephone, or if you feel like you'll be outed out of the shadows and are not protected on condition of social media anonymity. It's a lot more difficult to say some of these awful things that people say, but you know what? You become conditioned to it. In this case, look, I understand the healthcare industry is not what we want it to be. Most people who have dealt with the medical industry, specifically the medical insurance industry, as intimately as I have, and I don't pretend that I was in charge of a lot of these moments in my life, but, my mother had major medical issues when I was very young. My mother had a malignant brain tumor when I was 5 years old. My grandparents received a $450,000 medical bill when I was 6 years old. And I fully understand the failures of the health insurance industry and how it can fail some more than others. At the same time, I am fascinated with the number of people that are willing to openly say that they're happy that the CEO was assassinated. And some of these people have just recently been a part of the media. This lady, Taylor Lorenz, who is a former tech columnist for the Washington Post, she got booted in October, I suppose, is probably the biggest face fronting these individuals that are saying, oh, they're happy about this because the healthcare industry is invested in killing people. I believe in law and order. I believe in handling a bad situation by correcting said bad situation through the legal process as opposed to doing something illegal in a vigilantes type way. And for most reasonable people, we can see the difference. You can be disgusted by the healthcare industry or the health insurance industry and still recognize the sanctity of life, even if you don't think the person that got killed does. But some of this grossness that is seeping out of social media as a result of what happened last week is beyond the pale. Paul is in Shelbyville. Hey, Paul. How are you? Hey, Paul.
I'm doing good. I am doing good. I'm having a good evening. Glad to hear y'all talking about this kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to touch on the Castle Doctrine thing that you were talking about.
Sure.
I work for an FFL, and we have to keep up to date on all that stuff. And the Castle Doctrine is definitely a thing in Tennessee where you are allowed to defend yourself in your home if the threat is real.
Yeah, I think the standard is still that you have to be fearful for your life, but you do not have any duty to retreat if you're in your own home or in your automobile, et cetera.
That is correct. And Tennessee did extend the Castle Doctrine to include your vehicle.
No, that's great stuff too. And frankly, we need to promote more of that sort of thing as opposed to protecting and defending and bending over backwards for those that are committing lawless acts, right?
Amen to that. Amen to that. Now, on to the Good Samaritan thing that you were talking about earlier, with the giving CPR and stuff. I grew up in an emergency services family in my hometown of Christiana. My dad was the chief of our volunteer fire department for 30-plus years. I served 5 years under him myself, went to the state fire school and got my basic firefighter 1 and 2. And Good Samaritan thing was something that has been taught to all of us for years. And you're absolutely correct. It does protect you, the citizen, rendering aid to somebody if they are happen to get injured by your aid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all
I wonder, and thank you, Paul, for the call. I wonder, is there, and we've touched on it a couple of times as we discuss around this afternoon. I wonder if there's any sort of gray area. We had a caller indicate that law would extend to rendering aid to someone who's being physically attacked or assaulted. Well, that sounds exactly like what was going on with regard to Daniel Penny. If I encounter someone, and I don't pretend to know the specific law about this, I'm not suggesting I do, but I think we're hitting all over it, right? It makes sense that if I encounter someone and they're in an automobile and that automobile's on fire and I drag them out of the car trying to save their lives and I break their arm in doing so, I should not be held accountable for that arm breakage because I am trying to do my dead level best to render aid to them. Similarly, if I walk out of a place of business and I encounter two people in an altercation and there's a guy beating the hell out of a woman, I'm going to do my dead level best to stop that from happening, even if that means I'm going to assault the person that is causing harm to the other person. Well, I feel like I should fall under the same Good Samaritan law. I don't know if there's any technical difference in the two. I don't know that there should be. Scott is next. Hello, Scott. Glad you called. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great, man.
Going back to the issue, like where you feel endangerment from what the AG said, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is if I own a house, a thief they're going to do their due diligence to make sure nobody's at the house. That's a true thief. But when somebody breaks in your house, knowing you're in that house, I don't care if they've got a gun or a knife or whatever. They have no right there because you're under assumption they're going to do harm if you're in a house. Do you understand what I'm saying? I
understand what you're saying, Scott, but I want you to understand what I'm saying. And that is, unless you are fearful for your life.
I know, but
no, hold on. Scott, I didn't interrupt you. Why are you interrupting me? Can I finish?
I'm not. Well,
you going to let me finish?
Please.
Okay. I'm telling you that unless you are in fear of your life, if you shoot somebody, you might be in a spot of bother unless you can demonstrate that you were fearful that they were going to. Now, I think you are protected through the Castle Doctrine, but you're not fully protected just to shoot anybody you want to inside of your house just because they're inside of your house.
I understand that. But let's just say, yes, my point was a thief is going to do their homework. A thief is not going to kill nobody. They're going to steal from you when you ain't looking or when you ain't home. But when somebody breaks in your house and they know you and your family's in there, how do you know they're not going to do bodily harm?
Well, no, you don't.
That's my question.
Well, you know, I mean, and I'm not suggesting that in any circumstance. And Scott, I mean, I think we're pretty much on the same page here. In just about any circumstance where I have to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give the person who's the homeowner the benefit of the doubt there. I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt to the scumbag that just broke into my house for the purpose of stealing my things. Whether or not they want to do me harm is maybe a matter for debate. But if I'm standing there in the hallway and I'm looking at somebody and they got my stuff and they might have a gun on them or a knife on them, I'm not risking my life and the life of my family in that moment. I'm going to do what I've got to do. I mean, obviously. But the law is a little, I mean, there's a gray area within the law, and we've attempted to do everything we can to give that benefit of the doubt to the homeowners. And that's what the Castle Doctrine of the Stand Your Ground law does. So, I'm not against you on this one, Scott. I'm just helping you understand that if just because somebody's inside of your house, it does not give you the authority to shoot and kill them. Under the law, there has to be a a reasonable standard proved in court that you were genuinely fearful for your life. And look, your state of mind goes a long way to figuring that out. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I think the lawyers that are currently listening would agree with me in what I'm saying to you. 615-737-9986. Donald Trump stood before the media over the weekend, Kristen Welker to be specific. It started off this way and then just got better. Donald Trump and Kristen, am I saying her name right? Kristen Welker. Yeah, that's right. Kristen Welker of NBC had a sit-down conversation, and we'll share some of that with you coming up, including this.
There are 20 states that still have the federal minimum wage at $7.25, and I actually have a map. 19 of these states actually voted for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it
Yeah.
right here. I don't know if you remember this, but during the debate,
she brought visual aids. Kristen Welker brought visual aids. She's got a little map. She holds it up to him, and she shows him where the little red dots are on the map, where there's still a $7.25 minimum wage. Tennessee is one of those states. I'm looking at it right there. Tennessee, that voted for Donald Trump, our minimum wage is still $7.25. What business is paying minimum wage in the state of Tennessee? I don't, maybe there are some, and I understand if you are a server that's a little bit different, but this idea that it takes the federal government to act in order to push up wages is nonsensical. And it's class warfare that the media continues to perpetuate. We're going to discuss that in just a moment, plus take your telephone calls 49 after the hour on Super Talk. You want to talk about somebody invading your house? You want to talk about stand your ground laws and castle doctrine? Let's talk about the pests that want to get inside of your home. No, I'm not talking human beings. I'm talking about rodents. I'm talking mice. I'm talking moles. I'm talking those other furries. And I'm talking about roaches and these other bugs and nasties that just want to invade your house, and they don't think you can do anything about it. And if you don't have pest control from U.S. Pest, J.K. and Erica Brister, then you might not be able to do something about it. But if you're looking for crawl space service, if you're looking for service that can continue to prevent those critters from getting inside of your property and taking advantage of your warmth and taking advantage of your food, then it's time to get with U.S. Pest. I encourage you to get a monthly program going with U.S. Pest, because that's going to be the best at preventing these critters from coming in during the wintertime months. 100% money-back guarantee on their termite protection, 100% money-back guarantee on their pest protection. Crawl space services available as well. What it takes is a visit to the website, uspesta.com. That's uspesta.com. Or go ahead and give them a call at 615-590-1260. 590-1260. And when you do, tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only, the one that I recommend, US Pest, uspest.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Healthcare killing arrest, and Jay-Z is fighting back. These stories and more at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Man, oh man, Jay-Z, that story. I've not gotten into any of that, but that is just a weird, all of it's just skeevy and
It's
scummy.
not surprising, though.
I don't know. Well, it's not surprising. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised about anything that any entertainment figure having
Right.
any association with any, what's his name?
Diddy. Anyone that
Diddy.
went to Diddy's party should be
but,
looked at.
But yeah, it's just if you go down that rabbit hole, just prepared to be shocked because some of the allegations are just that.
And if you ask
shocking.
about baby oil shortage, that is why.
That's what they tell me. That's what they tell me. By the way, the NAACP, an organization that, in my opinion, used to have a good and solid foundational purpose, has completely lost its way. As today, the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, has stepped out and stomped over the rights of colored people. Instead, they've chosen to defend the family of Jordan Neely and suggest that Daniel Penny that his acquittal today was a miscarriage of justice. I'll have that ex-post for you coming up in just a moment, plus your telephone calls on the way. Max and Lane, David, Trent, and Danny. We'll get to the top stories with you, plus Donald Trump. Whoa! Plus, Donald Trump had a few things to say to Kirsten Welker of NBC. I'm going to go and attempt to get my hearing back while Ken Weaver does a few headlines. What? What did you say, Weaver?
What's that?
Huh?
I'm so sorry.
What?
I think he might be KGB.
Huh? What? Nothing. What?
I can't breathe. I'm laughing so hard. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can't breathe? Well, I can't hear, KGB. How's that go? Back in a moment on Super Time.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, let's get that special report. Healthcare killing Michelle Franzen.
The manhunt for the gunman in last week's deadly shooting attack of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has led to an arrest in Pennsylvania. Police in Altoona taking Luigi Mangione in custody, saying he's a person of interest after a McDonald's employee called in a tip from photos of the suspected gunman. ABC's Aaron Katursky says authorities say they found found fake IDs, a mask, and a gun similar to the one used in the killing.
The authorities credited good old-fashioned police work with getting that image out from the countless hours of surveillance footage from 60,000 surveillance cameras in New York City, and then the heads-up member of the public who called it in.
Authorities say he is being held on unrelated gun charges and say Mangione is from Maryland. The 26-year-old also graduating from the University of Pennsylvania in 2020.
Now, the former Marine accused in the chokehold death of a man on a subway train last year found not guilty by a New York City jury, but the legal fight may not be over, says Dave Packer.
Daniel Penny claimed he choked Jordan Neely out of self-defense, acquitted on a negligent homicide charge after a deadlocked jury led to the more serious manslaughter charge being dropped. Neely family attorney Dante Mills says the fight will go on in civil court.
The family's hurt. I promised this family that we would get justice. We're still going to do that. We're going to move forward with our suit.
The city's medical examiner concluding Penny's chokehold killed Neely. The defense argued Neely died from a genetic condition and the synthetic marijuana found in his system.
Sean Jay-Z Carter firing back in a court filing today after he and Sean Diddy Combs were accused of raping a 13-year-old girl at an after-party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. This according to an amended civil lawsuit filed Sunday. Jay-Z filed the motion today to deny the plaintiff's request to remain anonymous, calling for either her identity to be disclosed or the lawsuit to be dismissed. And the latest artificial intelligence tool from OpenAI is all about video, says Mike Dabusky.
OpenAI first previewed Sora earlier this year, but now the company is making the AI video generator available to paying subscribers. Kylie Robinson, AI reporter for The Verge, says many of Sora's videos look real on first glance, but don't hold up under closer scrutiny.
It's still weird. It's still when you watch a video that's generated with a large language model, you're like, this is off.
Last week, Google launched its own AI video tool called Veo, but only to Google Cloud customers.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a crash 24 downtown. Going to be westbound right there at 65 North. Then 65 northbound at I-440. 65 southbound in Spring Hill right after 840. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, it is The Drive. Matt Murphy and for Brian Wilson these Mondays and Fridays. Brian back tomorrow from 3 until 7. Thank you for being with us. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of it. We've got another 51 or so minutes left in this broadcast, and we'll hand off to Mark Levin, the great one, at about 7 o'clock tonight. Thank you for being with us. 615-737-9986. That's our telephone number. A couple of you still on the phone lines to discuss a number of matters that we've brought for topics of conversation. We've put them on the table, if you will. And you can also super text us at 615-737-9986. For example, 1981 has super texted, and 1981 says, just in case I missed it on the calendar, is there a live television shaving of Ken after President Trump's inauguration?
Heck no.
We are not touching that beard.
I like how Weaver's getting some spillover because it's my head that's supposed to get cut.
That's right.
During the inauguration process, but they're more interested in your shaving.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
No.
I will defend Ken with my life. I'll defend that beard with my life, Ken.
Well, I think the beard would defend itself.
Well, there's a little bird.
This is true.
A little bird lives in there.
Oh.
Well, there's also a little switchblade in there the beard can just use.
Hell,
as a
the
weapon.
bird carries it.
I mean, Weaver, I don't know if Weaver's currently on camera if you're watching on Super Talk TV, but Weaver, his beard carries itself. Ken Weaver's beard is an entity to himself. You look at yours, though, Malinoff, and I don't know what we're doing over there.
Well, Malinoff's, he's got a good beard going.
He's actually, you know what? I take it back. It's actually probably it's better than mine. Mine's just splotchy and spotty, and the white and the gray and the black. It just.
I do need to trim mine for sure. I need to just clean it up.
Is that No Shave November? Is that what you were doing?
No,
there?
I just like having a beard. I just think my face looks better. I don't like the baby face.
Well, there's less of it. So that's good.
And there's just a little neck fat I hate, and I think the beard covers it.
Wait a minute.
And girls like beards.
Did you say neck fat?
Yeah, I got a little bit of it.
Jeff.
Hey.
That's like fat back. Put a little of that neck fat in there. That'd be good.
Neck fat.
That's gonna make it taste good. That's what my grandma would do to make green beans taste good. put a little neck fat in there.
Oh yes, sir.
Wait. What animal's neck fat?
It's just some jowl meat. Just put a little jowl meat in there. Don't ask any questions. Just eat it. It's good.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Neck fat.
The less of your face, the better. And see, I say things like that. People take me seriously because I use a tone, and then people get mad at me, and they hit me up on the super text line and tell me how rude I am to you.
I wouldn't have invited you to golf if I thought you didn't like me. Let's just get that out of the way.
Oh, I liked you enough to beat you by 5.
Yeah, I had a really bad triple bogey on 17 that killed me.
No, you were in the mix. I was a little concerned until the triple bogey.
Yeah, the triple bogey. Then
and it was all good. And I think was that the one that I had the 30-foot par putt?
That was 16.
16.
That was 16.
That
one and that was a birdie. Or was that a par?
That was a par putt.
So I bogeyed that, and then you parred that. Then my triple, and then it was all over.
A little 30-foot par putt there, Ken.
Ken, you're more than welcome to join us next time.
I have no idea what y'all are talking about.
We're talking about goof, as my grandpa used to call it. My grandfather, he's a good old country boy, and I would tell him that I'm playing golf, and he would say, "Would you play golf or goof?"
Well, we goofed. I think we goofed.
Yeah, I think Pa would agree. From heaven, Pa was like, "That was not golf. That was goof."
So a birdie is better than par, right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
All right.
Birdie's a good thing. Eagle's a better thing. The bigger the bird, the better the moment.
I have eagled once in my life, and it was a highlight of my life. Nothing else compares to it.
Have I mentioned that we need to get you out on a date?
I have. I've been on dates.
Wait a minute.
I think I have a date planned for this week, but she's in Alabama right now, so hopefully she'll be back soon.
Ken, Jeff, I'm gonna need you to be quiet for just a second. Ken, should I ask the question that? No.
Wait, no. Wait.
I'm
we've already crossed the path.
No, I want. So you have dated women,
correct?
And you still say the Eagle was the greatest moment of your life?
Well, okay. If we're gonna go that route,
no. I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go any further down that route than we just went.
Okay, it's a top achievement of my life of practicing something and really exceeding at it. I don't know how else to describe it.
Are we still talking about golf, or are we talking about the girl?
We're just chewing the neck fat.
No, you know what? Screw it. It wasn't any long-term relationship.
Notice I told you not to go down that road.
No. I'm saying it. Eagle is still the greatest accomplishment of my life.
Well, good for you.
Now, Brother Jeff, you need to confirm you have a date this week. You cannot be thinking
No.
you have a date.
True.
I have
That's a
talked
good
to her.
point.
I got a steakhouse already planned out.
Okay.
It's gonna be a good time.
All right. Well,
You
good
got
deal,
so you
brother.
definitely have a date this week.
99%. She does have. She's visiting family right now, and hopefully she's back in time for it. So, not gonna get any.
This sounds shady.
No, it's not shady.
It sounds completely shady.
No. It just.
I might maybe have a date. Are you sure or not? I'm sure. I'm 99%.
I will show you the text, but I'm not going to explain.
I'm not asking to see the text. It's okay.
I hope you have that date, Brother Jeff.
I do too.
I do
I
too.
have again. I am the king of booking reservations. Anytime I know if the date is like, okay, we can do this time, I'm making that call right away, making it happen.
You know, Malinoff, we need to have one of these. We need to have a podcast where we just dive deep into the life of Jeff Malinoff.
Don't know.
Yes, sir.
It will get ugly fast.
I like how you say I'm the king of making reservations.
I am good at making dinner reservations. That's a good thing, a good trait to have.
But how hard is it? I mean, I didn't realize that making reservations.
Hey, at our age, there's a lot of lazy guys out there. You'd be surprised.
I mean, that's true. You come at this. I mean, Ken Weaver and I are old men. You're a young buck.
Well, you want the big fries or the little fries?
Oh, yeah, no, big fries.
No, you can't have some of mine. You're going to get your own.
Wait, on the first date, I'll let her share, but after a while, I got to tell her, girl, I can get you extra fries if you want it, but if you say no, this is your fault.
That's a big deal in your life when you're willing to look at your significant other, Malinoff, and say, no, you can't have some of mine. I got my fries for me. You need to order your own fries.
That's like years into a relationship. That's marriage material.
Well, that's true. No, when you're dating, she can have all the fries she wants.
Exactly. But once you get to that marriage stance, that's when you can put your foot down.
Right. And no, you can't have a bite of my thing. Do you need Ken? Are y'all food sharers?
Yes.
Well, we are too. I mean, so you are either a food sharer or you're not.
Right.
And you need to know what your significant other is. I mean, because sometimes you get a mixed marriage where there's a food sharer and then a non-sharer, and you got to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If she offers her food and it's delicious, sure, then we can split it. But I think if she just gets a salad and she wants a bite of your steak, then that's a problem.
Well, it's a significant advancement in a relationship, in my opinion. When you're ordering and you order on purpose to share the food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like, well, you get that and I'll get this, and then we'll take bites off of one another's and see what we like.
Well, what you got to be careful for, Brother Jeff, is if she orders the steak but then only eats the salad.
Okay, hold on. Someone on the chat said I was talking when I said people our age, I meant you guys. This time I meant no. I meant people in the 20s and 30s, like, are very lazy when it comes to dinner reservations, apparently. So I had to step up and say I'm one of those few that can make a dinner reservation.
Yeah.
Scott.
I think I knew what you meant.
No, I think we got it.
Yeah. Well, I just had it, like Scott said, this is the second time I said people our age. And I meant in a sense of, this one literally I meant people my age.
You don't mean old people like Ken and I.
Ken's never going to be old. I don't know about you.
I like how Ken. I like how he's willing just to totally throw me under the bus, but he likes you or is scared of you.
Well, I already have track marks from the 2, 3, 4 buses you've thrown me under in the past.
That's going to continue, my friend.
I know.
I promise you. And it's going to continue on Friday when I demand that you give us an update on this 99% certainty of a date.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know what? Fair. Oh God.
It's going to be fun, man.
Oh yeah, you'll have a great time. I'm sure. I'm sure. Might want to shape up the beard before you go out.
No, I'll trim. I'll clean up the beard.
All right, let's get back to more. And not that this wasn't a serious conversation about Jeff Malinoff's love life, but back to more serious things with Lane, who wants to talk insurance. Thank you for holding, Lane. I appreciate your patience.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm well, Lane. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't mean to go all Pelican Brief conspiracy theory on you.
Let's go.
But didn't this guy have to sit in front of an SEC hearing to?
Yeah, I mean, his United Healthcare was under the gun about their denial of claim practices and the fact that they were denying, I think it was 32% of claims made with the healthcare company.
Yeah, but wasn't he going to testify against Pelosi and her insider trading with the health markets?
Oh, I haven't heard that one, Lane.
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
Where did you?
It's an oddball take on that.
Where did
it was
you?
on the internet somewhere. I can't exactly remember where.
Well, if it was on the internet, it's got to be. It's got to be true if it was on the internet.
Well, that's where I say it's an oddball take.
No, I mean, look.
I'm digging a rabbit hole. I know. But
I'm here. Look, I'm here for the conspiracy theories. I mean, I've heard a lot of them over the past week about this guy, especially as he eluded capture. The biggest conspiracy theories were coming out before they actually got a hold of him. Now the conspiracy theories are going to turn to that he wanted to be caught. As a matter of fact, actually, and not to cut you short, do you have an ability to pull me up on you're probably not where I'm at. I got a press conference going on right now about this. Officials are giving an update on the arrest. If you turn it to 1313, I think you can get to it. Let me know when you have it. If you can pull this up, I would love. Well, I just went somewhere else. I don't know where you went, but you turned me.
I have it on CNN right now.
You have it
Going
over
to
there.
play
Well,
it?
I'm not telling you to go there. I'm telling you just to play that press conference. So yeah, just pull that up for just a second.
I guess he took a bus from the terminal of the George Washington Bridge to Philly, and then from there he was around the state, wound up here, or is that your? Can you be any more specific about how you think this works?
Well, again, I'll jump in. It's all part of the ongoing investigation. And so, yes, we do have a good idea how he got from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, but there are some gaps in time. And so before we start laying out a timeline of his travel, we really need to work through all of that. And so we know that at some point it is likely he was in a variety of locations across the state, to include Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and points in between.
And then Altoona. So Philadelphia, then Pittsburgh, and then he made his way back here.
Again, that'll all be part of the, logically, he's caught here in Altoona, so logically he was in those locations first. But again, the timeline of all of that will be part of the ongoing investigation.
What was that response to his detection for several days? Obviously, he was caught at McDonald's this morning. That guy's got to eat. For the past few days, he's been on the run for multiple days at this point. How did he manage to evade detection for so long?
So I think, again, as part of the ongoing investigation, when we determine where he's been, where he stayed, those kinds of things, we may be able to answer some of those questions. But right now I will tell you that based on everything that we have seen, he was very careful with trying to stay low profile, avoid cameras, not all that successfully in some cases, but that was certainly the effort he was making. He took steps to try and avoid detection with some of the electronic devices and things as well. So again, all part of the investigation, but clearly, somebody that was very security conscious and trying to avoid someone identifying.
He has no criminal record, and this was a name that was not previously known to law enforcement?
I am not aware of a criminal history on this
Could you
individual.
speak to those tech evasion devices? It was mentioned.
All right, we're going to continue monitoring this from here, and we will update you on anything else that comes out of this press conference that is going on right now in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, which is for some reason very difficult for me to say. Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. That is where the Pennsylvania State Police are currently updating us on the apprehension of the suspect believed to be responsible for the killing of CEO Brian Thompson. We'll be back in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We've got the new developments in the CEO killing arrest. That's coming up along with the day's closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. We've got plenty to go before we call it a night and hand off to Mark Levin. To include, I went through a period there where I wasn't a big fan of Phil Mickelson. Professional golfer Phil Mickelson. He was a lefty like yourself there, Malinoff. But Phil Mickelson has gotten, dare I say based? I know that that's not a word that I say very often. That's more of a Chris Hand kind of thing. But my goodness gracious, there's no other way to put it. Phil is getting it. He is getting it. And if you follow him on the X machine, you'll know it. The Associated Press broke the story that Daniel Penny, the veteran who used a chokehold on a subway rider, Jordan Neely, was acquitted this morning, to which Phil Mickelson responded, finally, a little common sense. There never should have been a trial. He should have been commended for selfless actions to protect the other passengers, and those who brought charges should be out of a job. That's what I'm talking about, Phil Mickelson. Love that. Maybe I can get Phil on the show. See what he has to say about some other political news. Speaking of politics or the synergy, I should say, of politics and sports, Donald Trump has announced that he will be attending the Army-Navy game. He got a robust reaction when he last attended the Army-Navy game, and he's planning on attending this coming Saturday. It was always an annual tradition that the Army-Navy game is the week after the conference championship games. I absolutely love it. I love the celebration of our nation. I love the celebration of the young men and women that put themselves into service, and I love the fact that Army only has one loss all season.
Man, they are fun to watch, too.
They are. They are.
They are power football.
Who's the bowl game they're in?
Who is Army? I don't know. I don't know who Army's playing.
By golly, I'll find out.
We're going to find out together because they deserve. And I get why they were left out of the college football playoff.
Independence Bowl against Marshall.
There we go.
Oh, and Marshall won their conference, so that's a competitive game.
That's a good bowl. I just love these young men at Army, Air Force, Navy. They have to fit more important qualifications long before they put on a football uniform and hit the field. And some of these, even the linemen are like 230 pounds, right?
Yes.
And they're going up against 350-pounders.
I don't think they can exceed 300. I think the limit is like 299.
Right. Even for their bigger
for their offensive linemen,
right. And they have to they bulk up as a result of doing that. No, it's great. Well, I love the fact that Trump's going to be there. He's going to get an incredible reception, and he is taking with him Pete Hegseth, indicating to me that much to the chagrin of some of these establishment Republicans and plenty of Democrats in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump has not yet begun to fight for his nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. They clearly believe that all of the negative that is going to come out about Hegseth, all of these attacks that are going to come out about him have already come out. I don't hold any weight with this attack that came out of California. I understand that Pete Hegseth had a portion of his life where he was, committing certain acts that many of us considered to be distasteful, whether they be, acts against his marriage or whatever. I'm not here to judge any of that. That is a private matter between him and his former spouse and his maker. But I will say this. These accusations against him are flimsy to nothing. The police department in California, Monterey Police Department, fully investigated him. As far as the rest of it, he drinks to excess and nonsense like that. It's just that. It's nonsense. I do not believe that you give up on Pete Hegseth quite yet, because I do believe he could get a lot of the woke out of our Department of Defense, and he is ready and prepared to do so. And it indicates to me, based on his appearance with the president-elect at the Army-Navy game, that Donald Trump is all in on Pete Hegseth. So all of that talk last week of, he's going to replace him and he's going to pick Ron DeSantis. I don't have anything against Ron DeSantis, but I didn't believe it for a moment. I think that was based on the media wanting another pelt. They got Matt Gaetz. They wanted another one, and they thought they could get one in the form of Hegseth, and Trump is pushing back, and I say good for him. It is 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, full forecast, traffic in 5 minutes, and the suspect in last Wednesday's brazen killing of United Healthcare's CEO in Manhattan has been charged with weapons, forgery, and other charges in Pennsylvania after he was arrested this side of McDonald's. Here's Aaron Katursky.
26-year-old Luigi Mangione taken into custody in Altoona, Pennsylvania after he was recognized at a McDonald's from surveillance images. A worker spotted a customer who was eating and acting suspiciously and dialed 911. Altoona police taking Mangione into custody on gun charges. Police found 3 handwritten pages that police sources tell ABC News express anger at the insurance industry and could speak to his motivation and mindset.
Here in Nashville, officials say emergency overflow shelters helped 1,308 people seeking refuge from the cold last week. EMS had to be called on 2 consecutive days for seizures with the same person. One person called EMS for himself during a mental health crisis, but no other major medical emergencies. Money News, here's Michelle Franzen.
Stock market superstar NVIDIA pulled indexes down today after China said it's investigating the chip giant for alleged antitrust violation. The Dow Jones lost 241 points. The S&P slipped by 37, and the broader NASDAQ composite dropped 123 points. TikTok is exhausting all legal avenues to avoid shutting down by mid-January. The popular social media platform app has asked a federal appeals court to stop the Biden administration from banning it until the Supreme Court reviews the case. Congress passed a law that calls for TikTok to be shut down unless it is sold by its Chinese parent company. About 150 million Americans use TikTok. Taylor Swift is shattering records. The just-ended 2-year-long worldwide Eras Tour brought in about $2.2 billion from 149 shows in 5 continents.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got that crash. 24 westbound is going to be downtown at the 65 north split. And then in Williamson County, we've got 65 southbound right after 840. Closer to Nashville, 65 northbound at I-440, reported by police. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you for being around. It is 38 minutes after the hour. We'll finish it up, and we'll hand off to Mark Levin coming up in moments. My name is Matt Murphy, and I am in for Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson back on the drive tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be back on Friday. For those who have been out of pocket for a minute or two, the announcement was made. You know, Brian Wilson made his announcement that after 50 years in the broadcast game, television as well as radio, he is hanging them up on a full-time basis on December 24th. Got lots to do, though. I mean, heck, he's got to get Watertown straight out there with the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, there's a lot of things he's got going on, and he'll still be a part of the Super Talk family. And starting on January 2nd, I will be a permanent fixture in the afternoons. I'm blessed to be able to tell you that, and I mean that sincerely. I'm just so honored to have an opportunity to sit where Brian Wilson has sat, to sit where Phil Valentine has sat. And I thank you for making me a part of your day. If you're able to give me 5 minutes of the full 4 hours, I am grateful and insanely appreciative of the opportunity, and I'll try to live up to it. Some of you do not believe that I am living up to it. For example, I was chided for being nasty to a caller earlier, and it was not my intention to be nasty to a caller. 5805 says, did you think you handled yourself well with that caller? The guy named Scott about a burglar in a home. I think not. And I said, I let him speak. I felt like he interrupted me, and I asked him not to do so. It's an honest question if you think I can do better. So, I understand that I'm not for everybody, but hopefully I'm for you. That's the main thing. And hopefully we will spend time together informing you about the issues of the day and making sure that you are well aware of what you need to be aware of before you get home. I got a couple of Donald Trump clips I want to play for you, but first, Max has been holding on. Hello, Max. How are you?
Matt, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
I listen to you regularly, enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And your commentary, and I congratulate you on your new position coming up on the drive. I think you're going to do great.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Listen, I was just going to call. I have some legal background. I love your Jay St. Clair segments. You have the right to protect yourself in your home. You have the right to protect yourself in your car. And the qualifier of you have to be in fear of your life is the statute says that a reasonable person would be in fear. Same thing for assault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have people all the time that come in and they say, well, you know, he's my boyfriend, and yes, he spit in my face, and this, that, and the other. Well, a reasonable person would find that to be offensive, and that's what the statute says. So, you know, I think just almost if someone's broken into your home and you're in there and you know that there's an intruder, a reasonable person would be in fear for their safety. So, you know, Tennessee is pretty clear as far as being able to protect yourself. Now, having said that, can you get sued? Well, you know, you encounter a man holding a woman down on the ground, and she's hollering, "Leave me alone! You're my ex-husband. You're this. You're that." And you go up and you shoot him in the head with a gun. You may be sued.
Right.
That may be a little excessive. So every case is fact specific, but generally in Tennessee, yes, we have the right to protect ourselves and others.
Well, no, that's spoken like a man who's been around the legal system a time or two.
Well, yes, sir. That's me. I've been there for 100 years as an attorney, as a judge, and as a prosecutor. And yes, sir. So, you know, there's no black and white rule that applies to basically anything.
Right.
But as a general rule, yes, you have the right to protect yourself and you have the right to protect others.
Well, no, that's, you know, my good friend Jay, you mentioned him, and he gets the question. We've been doing the St. Clair segment from my time in Birmingham and on into Nashville for the better part of, I mean, I guess we're going on 2 decades now. It's been a long time. And
Wow.
And Jay gets asked the question often, you know, and they all, you know, they start with, well, can I sue if blah, 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 you know, ... Yeah. And
you can sue anybody.
That's right. Jay likes to say on those occasions, well, you know what it takes to sue somebody? It takes a crayon and $400.
That's it.
He's like, if you got
Let me tell you one other thing
go
before
ahead.
we go. I know you got to go.
No, sure, that's fine.
But, years ago, when I got out of college, I played in a band, and we played in Birmingham during the Iron Bowl, Alabama-Auburn.
Oh, wow.
And we played down there, and about 3 days before the game, all the fans came in, and every night, about 2 or 3 times, half the room would start saying, "Roll Tide," and half the room would start saying, "War Eagle." And what we would do is we would start into the ballad of "I wish I was in the land of hockey." And everybody would hush and stand up and pay attention. And there's no telling how many lives we saved.
That's a great story, Max. Oh, well, if you know, you know. That thing, back in the day, that Iron Bowl, it was before my time. I got to Alabama in 1999, so there were a few Iron Bowls that were still at Legion Field when Alabama was playing them, and eventually they went back to campus too. But I hear stories all the time. That was in the 1980s. That was an insane time to be a college football fan in Alabama.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Right.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Your Honor.
We appreciate your show. Keep up the good work.
All right, take care. That's great. That's great. Former judge calling the show. And Max, to hit me up on social media or something and let me know who you are. I'll invite you in sometime. Listen, anybody that's been a prosecutor and a judge, I promise you, they've got plenty of legal stories. But that is true, that all you need is a $400 and a crayon, and you can sue just about anybody. Now, the question that you're actually asking is, will I win if I sue? And as the judge just said there, that is, man, these things are so case dependent. And if you feel like I was hard-hearted toward the guy that was calling in, I wasn't trying to be so. Odds are, if you have someone breaking into your house with the stand your ground or castle doctrine, as the judge just illustrated, I mean, in the state of Tennessee, with a jury of your peers, the likelihood of you getting a jury telling you that you are guilty of some sort of manslaughter charge or criminally negligent homicide charge, when you are saying to that jury, I was in fear of my life. Well, most reasonable people would be in fear for their life if there was somebody inside of their home trying to do bad things. My point was that if it is an extreme circumstance by which it's demonstrated that the person was leaving the house or the person was leaving your property, and you can't just say, well, no, I didn't fear for my life. I shot him because he was in my house. Well, then you're going to be in trouble. You can't kill someone for theft of property. That's not allowed. But you can kill someone if you believe that they are an immediate danger to you or your family and your lives. That's the standard. So I was just trying to correct the standard that it is not permissible to shoot somebody just because they're inside of your house. Not according to the law. But it is permissible to shoot someone inside of your house that you believe is about to kill you or to attack a family member or to put you in reasonable fear of your life. And the judge clearly illustrated the language there that you need to demonstrate in a court of law. Speaking of language, Donald Trump was speaking to Kristen Welker. And by the way, for those of us who were impressed, I guess the political left is not very impressed that Donald Trump didn't take a salary last time. He was asked about this during his interview over the weekend with Kristen Welker of NBC News. Here's what he said.
As president?
I'm not going to accept a salary, no. And I'm giving up a lot of money, you know. Do you know what amazed me? And maybe this isn't right, but other than George Washington, and they're not sure about that, every president has accepted their salary except me.
And you did accept the pension, correct?
I don't think so.
You didn't accept your pension?
I don't think I accepted anything. I didn't. I get a salary. The president gets about $450,000 a year, and I didn't take it.
I want to ask you again about...
But by the way, I got no credit for that. That's okay.
Well, I am asking you about it for that reason.
Yeah.
And I think it's notable you're not going to accept a salary.
Yeah, I don't accept. I'm not. Yeah. I didn't, and I'm not going to. And I don't believe I got any credit for that. But I just feel it's For me, it's a nice thing to do. I think this, and I was surprised, not one president has done that. I would have assumed Roosevelt would have not accepted salary, or Kennedy, Kennedy family is rich. I would have assumed that some of them, I'm the only president that.
So that's Donald Trump, and Donald Trump saying Donald Trump things, and I absolutely love that Donald Trump saying Donald Trump things in front of somebody like Kristen Welker, who doesn't necessarily appreciate those Donald Trump things as he says them to her. She also had a moment in the interview where she decides to deceptively edit the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States in discussing illegal immigration with Donald Trump. I don't think I can get to it right now, though, because it's 49 after the hour, and I'm on a time crunch. Maybe tomorrow. We'll also talk with Scott Sapicki tomorrow about something. I'll tell you about it in just a moment. So how much recess is enough in Tennessee public education? Because we have become, sadly, a morbidly obese nation. We're going to discuss it at length tomorrow, but I'll give you a little preview next. It's 49 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. Winding down our time together, we did not get to Syria and what it means for the rest of the globe. We'll try to do that tomorrow. Also tomorrow, now understand, tomorrow Brian Wilson's back during the drive from 3 until 7. I'm here from noon until 3. Don't forget about our toy field, which is pretty incredible. It is at Nissan Stadium. Just find, if you find it in your heart to get a new unwrapped toy and bring it by, we would love to take it off your hands and to assist a young person who does not have toys over the holidays. Excuse me, got choked up there. So do that if you can. It's our 17th annual Toy Field at Nissan Stadium with Super Talk 99.7 WTN and our Cumulus family. I'll be there from 3 until 5 if you want to say hello to me. Back tomorrow at noon, we'll talk about Tennessee and physical education in our public school system tomorrow with Scott Spickey, amongst other things. Until then, have a wonderful evening, folks. Hug your loved ones. For Jeff Malinoff, Ken Weaver, and the rest of the crew, have a great night. So long, everybody.